we have invited a very special friend who helped design this penguin and is going to show us stuff. I'm going to let him introduce himself. How are you, sir? Good evening.
I'm good. My name's David, and I have the privilege of being the principal at the Wargaming Company, as well as the designer of ESR Napoleonics. And tonight, a phantom voice in this game.
That's, and also a phantom green hand wandering around the board even as we speak. And so tonight, David has graciously agreed to now Doug and I have owned Et Sans Résultat for over a year. We were talking about it just before. So we've had it for a while, and we've always wanted to give a go. This map designed by my wife, well, not designed, but drawn by my wife for TTS, is taken straight out of the rule book. And so we have brought David in, who's going to show us how to play Et Sans Résultat. So I'm going to shut up, get out of the way, and away you go.
Well, so first thing I want to do is thank both of you gentlemen, because people have been asking for video playthroughs of this for an extended period of time. And they really want to see other players doing it. They really don't want to see us at the Wargaming Company doing it, because it's our baby already. And though they'd settle for that because they'd like it quite a bit. But it's also something that, it's always a question of, am I going to spend time on marketing, or am I going to spend time on product development? And so it's not something that we have done or gotten out there for people. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and giving me the opportunity to be part.
That's no.
So, go ahead.
No, just pleasure is ours. Looking forward to it.
So, to give people a little bit of an overview of what we're looking at, this is the intro scenario from the back of the Complete Player's Guide. It is laid out and designed to be run on a nominally 3-mile square table. ESR can be played at any ground scale with any figure scale. So you could play it at 1 inch is 150 yards, which is the scale of our box sets of miniatures. And that's the scale that we're playing at tonight, correct?
Correct.
Or you could play it with an existing 15 millimeter collection at 1 inch is 75 yards or 1 inch is 100 yards. What have you. We provide charts for a variety of ground scales, so you can use your existing collection if you've got one. The nice thing about the 150-yard scale is 1 foot is 1 mile. So if, and I'm a little bit unfamiliar, but if I go and draw between 2 points here, so between, can you guys see that? Just happy and fine?
Sure can.
So, but between these two columns of infantry, there's approximately 1 mile between them, to give you some idea of the scale of this battlefield. So are we set up here at? We're set up at just under 4. Yep. That works. Mm-hmm. The scenario in the Complete Player's Guide is entirely meant to be a place to start from and then kind of screw around with, because if you're like me, you need a project in order to learn a tool, and that doesn't really change when it's a game. You need some place to start, and then you can futz with it and muddle around and change things in order to learn however you learn. But to get started, you kind of need some sort of something staged, and so that was the intent of this. Now, we've got Austria and French present, and we've got, who's playing who?
I'm the French.
I have the Austrians.
Okay, and we've got an Austrian column here. Am I highlighting stuff everybody gets to see?
We can see that. Yep.
Wonderful. Everybody can tell that David is absolutely no idea how to use Tabletop Simulator. But so there's Austrians, and then here we've got French. to give you a little bit of a notion of what you're looking at, we use generic terminology in ESR for different bodies of troops, because depending on the campaign and the year and the country, different terminology gets used during the period. So, for instance, we've got, looks like a brigade of French cavalry here.
Yes.
That would be referred to as a formation. We've got, looks like a division of French infantry here. That would also be referred to as a formation. And here we've got a force commander who represents a player, and a force is made up of multiple formations. So we've got one formation here, we've got one formation here, looks like we've got another formation here, and that makes up the force of Davout. Who gave the French Davout? Did Davout set up this table tonight by chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of how this goes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious.
I'll go
Interesting
get Bernadette if I have
Interesting
to.
choice. So then, similarly, the Austrians have got. It looks like they've got an avant-garde up front that's mixed hussars and grenzers. So there's a formation. And then they've got a formation of infantry and landwehr, and then they've got another infantry division coming on in the back. And this is great, because then we can blame the guy who set it up.
Yes.
For
Right.
whether or not it's a walkover, and instead of blaming me because I didn't set it up. I like this. This is good. So a player's command is called a force, and a player is represented by. I'm just going to keep highlighting that you picked Davout.
Good.
What Napoleonic player would do that? Really? I mean, you guys. Do you owe him beer or something? And he was like, I'll show you. So
I like this guy.
So the player, ESR is a perspective-based grand tactical game. And the immediate question that we got is, what the heck does that mean? So Grand Tactical refers to the scope of the game. This is not a tactical system. You make nearly zero tactical decisions. Not quite zero, but pretty close. And is a perspective-based game in that you are represented on the table. Everything is decided from a singular perspective. Davout's perspective tonight, because Davout rigged the game. But I suppose you could also be Hohenzollern and sitting over here feeling sorry for yourself. But you are one of those two individuals. You are not random Austrian mounted general who was not good enough to deserve a name. You are not Montbrun. You are either a force commander, or in larger games with more players, you could also be an army commander. And so you've got your force divided into several formations. Each formation is divided into units. So you've got this stand is a unit. That refers to a battalion or an artillery battery or a squadron group of cavalry. And a squadron group of cavalry is nominally 200-300 horse. It's not necessarily one squadron. It's not necessarily 3 or 4 squadrons. It depends on their strength. Since they were a bit more dynamic in how they organized on the battlefield than infantry were. You've got several stands then of cavalry in this formation, plus a formation commander here. And he is simply the command stand of this formation. He is not a decision maker. You are never in the role of Montbrun. He does not roll dice. He does not decide things. So this is where ESR differs a lot from other games that people may be familiar with, whether it's Napoleon's battles or Empire or something else. Another way is that back here we've got Montbrun's division has got this wagon, and this wagon represents a Reformation area. A Reformation area is the rear area of the formation. It's effectively a marker. It is considered a unit, and they can be fired on. The enemy can go to contact with it, and that sort of thing. And that sort of thing is bad if it's yours. If it's not yours, then whatever, it might be very funny. But if it's yours, it's bad. The Reformation area is the rear area. It's the baggage train. It's the rally point. It is all things that are important to the guys up in the front of formation. And when a unit routes, it does not go some number of inches, some direction. It goes to the Reformation area. And when it rallies, it does not, move some number of inches in some direction. It just goes to the back of its formation. So there's none of this having to track where. Wow, I cannot set things down flat. There's no having to worry about tracking routed units and their movement and where are they compared to the rest of their parent formation. They're in their Reformation area. From a simulation and game mechanics standpoint, the notion is, as the force commander, you don't know or care where the routed unit is. You care that it's no longer in action. You know where it is, vaguely. It's somewhere in the back, hopefully getting its stuff together so that it can rejoin the fight. The Reformation area sits nominally 900 yards from the rear wave of the formation. So from approximately that point, that point to the Reformation area should be approximately 900 yards. The idea for that, almost perfect. So 900 yards in this ground scale would be 6 inches. 1,800 yards to the mile, 1 foot is 1 mile. So about 6-7 inches back is where that Reformation area should be placed as it is. The notion there is that if enemy artillery were to drop amongst your line because your line is breaking up, the rally point is somewhere outside artillery range. Your troops are not going to stop retreating while they can still be shelled. They're going to get out of harm's way, and then they're going to stop retreating and hopefully rally up. So we've got 2 different statuses or types of formations here. Hopefully nobody's double checking the words that I use versus rules terminology because they'll be wrong. But you've got a deployed formation here, and then you've got a ployed formation here. And ployed is actually a real word. People can look it up and find out that it's arcane.
I have to tell you, David, when I first read it, I just thought this guy's demented, and I looked it up, and there it was. So.
Well, he may be, but this is not evidence.
That's not the evidence, right?
So a ployed formation is to be in a column, and a deployed formation is to be not in a column. So all of these troops that we've got here along this long column, they are all ployed. These guys are all ployed. Then you've got these here, which are all deployed. When you are ployed, the formation commander sits at the head of that column, followed by all of your units, followed by any artillery, followed by the Reformation area at the tail. When you are deployed, the units go up front. The formation commander goes directly behind their center, as would any uncommitted artillery. And then in this ground scale, 6 inches back, about 900 yards, goes the Reformation Area. We don't deal with very many tactical considerations in this game. So people will ask about, well, what about flanking? What do I have to worry if an enemy goes right there and I'm outflanked? No. That unit on your flank is figuring out as best as it can, doing whatever it is it does. It refuses the flank. It gives a bit of ground. Who knows? You hired people for that. You're sitting up on this hill thinking about how you're Davout. You've got Montbrun is handling that. The colonel of the 11th Chasseurs is handling that. The squadron commander is handling that. You're not handling that. What you do have to worry about is being grand tactically outflanked. And we'll see if this happens. But from a concept standpoint, from the rear wave, its outer edge, to the Reformation Area, there's an imaginary line that you can see drawn out there. That is your flank line. If the enemy were to break that line, the formation would be considered grand tactically outflanked, and there are some bad penalties for that. Effectively, troops don't like the route to safety being blocked, if you can imagine why they're so silly like that. So as far as general kind of concepts and overview, that's a lot of it. The other thing that we should touch on, I'm not going to go through everything. We'll go through most things as they come up. But the other thing that we should talk about, since we now know what everything here is, a stand is a unit. Units make up formations. Formations have reformation areas and formation commanders. Multiple formations make up a force, which is commanded by a player, known as a force commander. With all of that in mind, we have orders. It is an order-based command system. There are effectively 2 types or levels of orders to concern yourself with. A whole force has an objective, singular. One objective, whole force. It's a geographic objective. It is a place that you're going. It is a destination. It is a waypoint. We're not talking victory conditions. We're talking where you're going. And it can be anything that can be described in a couple of words. Let's say that the Wargaming Company logo over here is north, just for sake of orientation for this game. So that's north. So if you wanted to go to North Village, that could be your objective. If somebody was kind enough to name your villages, you could just say Vauchamps. Looks like this is also Vauchamp. Okay, so if somebody were silly and named all of their villages the same thing, you could say North Vauchamp. You could say...
I'm going to tell you, and it's one of the things that's really striking as I start to think about it, I did not realize that downtown Vauchamp was 3 miles south of Vauchamp North.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just over a mile. What was that? 14 inches?
Yeah, it's a mile.
It's a mile. Yeah. That's right. Just a little mile. Okay, so these are, this is Greater Vauchamp.
Yeah, Metropolitan Vauchamp.
There it is.
And then we've got the South Central Woods down here, and that sort of thing. And so objectives are meant to keep the honest player honest. They're not meant to be real complicated. We're not talking about picking out a bush and saying, I am marching to that piece of lichen on the table. We're trying to set a general place that you are going to. So that's for your force, your entire command. And you can change those during the course of the scenario. In fact, in most scenarios, you would expect to and should. It's not very difficult most of the time. Then you also have directives. And each formation, so this cavalry brigade, for instance, gets a directive. And there are 5 of those which are outlined on the quick reference guide. In the blue section, all of the sections of the quick reference guide and the rule book are color-coded. And blue is for command, which is the first phase of the turn. Green is for movement, which is the second phase. There's kind of a pinkish purple, which is artillery and skirmishing. And then red is combat. So in the blue section, in the upper left-hand corner of the front, you'll find the orders, which respectively are attack, defend, support, move, and reserve. And those are your 5 choices. So you don't have a whole lot of tools in the toolbox. You've got
5 orders.
You've got 5 orders for formations: attack, defend, support, move, and reserve. And each one of these bodies of troops will receive one of those. And those can, again, be changed as needed. Well, you can attempt to change them as needed. And they are persistent. Both objectives and directives are persistent turn over turn. So I issue one, I activate one, the formation follows it until something interrupts that, whether it be me activating a new one or something bad happening and preventing it from accomplishing it, or perhaps it reaches its destination. I give, who is this? Saint Hilaire's. Man, we got Saint Hilaire and Devoux. We were really at the bottom of the barrel for French commanders.
He's in the division.
We got Friant too, so.
Oh gosh, yeah.
In the same
scraping the bottom of the fish barrel.
I'm just saying.
If there is an opportunity for Third Corps to show up, it's going to.
I'm saying.
So if let's say that Devoux had an objective of this crossroads, and Saint Hilaire had a move directive, then St. Hilaire's division would move to that crossroads or until something prevented that, like it was blocked by the enemy. And once it reached that force objective, it would convert to defend. That's the natural progression. Whether it's on attack or whether it's on move, once a formation reaches the objective, it is going to convert to defend until you tell it somewhere to go, a new place to go, and a new directive for it to follow there. So you can think of objectives as a destination for your whole command. You're always closing or converging your whole command on a somewhere. And you can think of directives as sort of the how do I want them to go there? Do I want to go there aggressively? I put them on an attack. Do I want them to go there leisurely? I put them on move. And we'll talk just briefly about the difference between a couple of these orders. Defend nominally hangs out in its current position. It's not frozen. We'll deal with the nuance of that as it comes up. But it can't pick up and go elsewhere. Attack has to make a beeline for its force's objective. So, for instance, where's the front of Friant here? If you give Friant an attack order, that is the most direct path. So that's the path he has to take. If the crossroads are the objective, Friant is on an attack order, he has to go straight at it or any enemy that intervenes. So let's say that the objective was that wood, then Friant would have to make a beeline for that wood, and he would have to go and hit this avant-garde if he could, because they are in the way of his objective. If he's given a move order, then way more flexible. On a move order, and I should specify, troops march at a measured pace. So on an attack order, yes, you have to go full speed. On a move order, you still have to go full speed. But you are allowed to follow a road so long as it eventually leads towards your objective. You're also allowed to avoid bad terrain, such as these woods here. So Friant could follow the road over here and then turn and head over this direction. He could also decide to just bank left right away and head to this road, avoid the woods, and then follow the road to his horse's objective. Or if he wanted to, he could cut through the wood. But he's not required to go through bad terrain on a move order. So very much think of a move order as maneuvering to a step-off point or maneuvering to a defense position that you want to hold. Let's see, support is the most flexible of orders in many ways. A formation on support is supporting someone. They're supporting another formation, and they have to shadow that formation. You can't shadow from ahead. So they have to be behind, but they can be off the flank or the rear, and they can freely switch between. So if you kind of imagine a U behind these French cavalry, anywhere around that U could be a supporting formation, and it could freely move between positions there. The benefit of support is that it can freely change to attack or defend. So you can halt a supporting formation if you decide that you need a safety net, or if you need an exploitation element, you can convert them to attack because your lead formation is wearing down, or it's broken through, or what have you. Reserve is the same as support, except it doesn't go anywhere. It hangs out like defend does in wherever its current location is. So does that basic overview help you guys out? Can I give you a general notion of where to begin?
It does.
Yes, very much so.
Wonderful. So the turn sequence is at the top of the quick reference guide, and what I should have told everybody earlier is that if you go to the wargamingcompany.com, if you can tear yourself away for shopping for new toys, you should go to the download section, and you will find the quick reference guide, which we are using, which there is laying out on the table and moving about so everybody can kind of see what that looks like. And those are downloadable as a free PDF. We sell them pre-printed on a plastic paper, effectively polyester paper, that you can spill your beer on or coffee on, and it's still perfectly fine. But you can also simply just download them as a PDF and kind of follow along that way with what we do as we play. So with that, any questions from you guys?
Is there such a thing as initiative? Who goes first, etc.?
Wonderful question. No. So there's no I go, you go. The game movement in the game is simultaneous. Nearly all of the mechanics are performed simultaneously. There will be times as we go through this that I ask for one of you to do something followed by the other one doing it, and we'll apply the results simultaneously, just so that we can walk through all of the steps. Mm-hmm. There is an order of priority. It's pretty limited. Cavalry on attack move before practically anything else. Actually, I should specify that a little bit more specifically. The movement priorities are retreat and broken, which you don't want to be by choice. Go first. Followed by that, any attacking cavalry move. Oh gosh, I made the mistake of looking up a rule. I take that back. Attacking cavalry go first, followed by any retreats or broken, followed by everybody else. So otherwise, movement is simultaneous, combat is simultaneous, artillery and skirmishing is simultaneous, issuing of orders is simultaneous. So the first phase of the turn is command, and the first step is activate orders, which neither one of you have any because you have not issued any. So you don't have anything to activate. The second step is, handy enough, issue orders. So if you wish, you can issue directives to each one of your formations. Now, you don't have to issue a directive. And keep in mind, we haven't dealt with objectives yet. In a larger game where you have a player designated as the army commander, they would follow this same sequence of events. So during issue orders, the army commander would issue each player an objective. And then during the following turn, the first step is activate orders. They would have the option of rolling to activate your objective so that you have a destination to go to. We don't have an army commander present, so you're going to be setting your own, and there's a mechanic for that, which we'll be getting to in a moment. But since the first thing that comes up is issue orders, if you like, you can each issue an order to each one of your formations. A formation without one goes on defend. And we're using tabletop markers tonight on this, correct?
Yep.
Wonderful. And some people hate tabletop markers. Some people hate roster sheets. You pick your poison. You do whichever you prefer. All you need to indicate is, A is for attack, D is for defend. And so go ahead and issue your...
I like this because we actually built these this way. They have an other side.
Ooh, so you can hide them?
Yep.
We get that question a lot, is do I have to worry about my opponent knowing what I'm doing? And the answer is be as paranoid as you want to be, because as soon as you start doing it, they're going to know what you're doing. It's going to be important for all of a minute to keep it secret. But it is handy when you're first putting them out, so you're not in a staring contest.
I'm not even looking at what you're doing. All the folks at home are going to have to follow me around. Do that. That's what I wanted. Yep. That's all it is. Okay. And Devil was hanging out right there. Yep. That's right. You can't support to the front, can you?
Now, let's say that that brings up a good question. Let's say that you wanted to put Devu wanted to put this cavalry formation on support.
Mm-hmm.
It can't choose to be ahead of whoever it's supporting, but it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
So it could, on support, let's say it was Montbrun was going to support Saint Hilaire.
Mm-hmm.
Then I issue a support order to Montbrun, and I activate it subsequently, and then movement comes up. Montbrun could sit there, and Saint Hilaire could move to somewhere that makes Montbrun off of his flank or rear, or Montbrun could move in such a way as to take him to the flank or rear of Saint Hilaire. That makes sense?
You don't have to tell me twice. I got 1, I got 2, I got 3. The French are ready.
The Austrians have been drinking beer while you French dilly-dallied around.
I see how this is going to be. We're all set, I think.
That's very Austrian of you. I already have my excuse. I lost because my men were drunk.
That's
exactly.
That you'd be amazed.
It's important to plan ahead.
You'd be amazed how well that plays back at the Kriegsrat.
Okay, so we've got turn 1. First phase is command, activate orders. We did not have any issue orders. We just did that. Leader actions. Leader actions are listed on the quick reference guide in the top left, still in the blue section because we're still in the command phase. And they are a little bit more nuanced list of ways that you the force commander can interact with a given formation. And they include some things like you can take personal command, which in other game systems you might think of as attaching. You can change your own objective, which right now, since we don't have Charles is not here and Napoleon is not here, we should probably set our own objectives to decide where our forces are going. So each of you needs to pick some destination, and it's up to you. And friendly pickup games, people may simply just tell the other player. In more competitive or paranoid settings, you might write it down on a piece of paper that you're hiding behind your hand. You could use a tabletop marker, you could not, but it's meant to keep the honest player honest. So however you gentlemen want to do that in this particular match.
Well, I think for sake of transparency, we should just declare them, since we're trying to teach people how to play.
Yep. You want to throw down a couple flags, Doug?
Do we have flags? Oh,
come on now.
I did not know.
Who are you? I try never to leave the house without them. Where are my lovely flags? Oh, see, I'm showing the folks at home the secrets behind the curtain. And unfortunately, somebody's taken my... had I known, I would have done something much more dramatic. See, I have... check this out. I've got Austrian flags, but you, Doug, may have an Austrian flag because you are good that way.
I need an Austrian flag.
It is right there.
Need it.
And so you may place it there. I unfortunately have something far less impressive, so what should I place? I shall have to find some...
Davoo doesn't have a French flag.
Okay, look.
The Third Corps is unprepared.
Yeah, that actually is the grave offense, isn't it?
Are you sure you didn't pick up the wrong name tag for yourself?
They left their flag in Ratisbone.
Look, I brought a soldier. That's what I brought. There we go. There we go. That will be mine. So I'm curious where Doug has planted his flag, but I oddly enough, I had the same idea.
Well, the map sort of screams that.
Yeah, and I will tell you that this is one of those things that I did wonder about. I'll make sure it's the same size, we'll be fair. But I was wondering this about ESR in that since this is my objective, as you say, it's among friends, so it's clear that I want this whole village. And so it sort of incorporates the whole space around it. It's not just that crossroads, it's the distance around it as well.
Well, this brings up a great question is, effectively, you get to call your own objective in that, what's a good way to say this? Once again, it's meant to keep the honest player honest. So if you say, my objective is this village.
Yes. Okay.
Then if I march something to this hill, my fellow players are going to look at me cross because there's some BS there. That's not kosher. I'm clearly not going towards where I said my objective is.
Yes.
If I say that my objective is this village, and then I march to the flank of the village instead of the center of the village, well, that's perfectly reasonable. If I picked this hill over here, whether I defend the flank of the hill, the rear slope of the hill, the front slope of the hill, whatever, I'm clearly defending the hill. So it's meant to keep you from reacting in a moment's notice to a new threat. It is not... people will often ask about rules lawyering and arguing over stuff and nitpicking, and I guess I would tell you that by and large things ultimately come down to the people that you play with. That's inescapable.
Well, there we go.
So if you are playing with people who need something defined very, very strictly, then your group may need to define things very, very strictly. But it's the exact same thing that prevents from just outright cheating. Because the other people I play with. The rules can't stop me from making the rules. The enforcement mechanism is always, the people that you game with, or no longer get to game with because you were a jerk and they kicked you out.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's great. Then Doug and I are both agreed, and I think he's absolutely right. The terrain demands it. We're gonna punch up over Vauchamp Central.
Wonderful. This will definitely go on for minutes and not hours. So that was a leader action because we don't have an army commander sending us objectives. We're setting our own objective as a leader action. Leader actions are rolled for immediately. They are a pass-fail attempt. So in the bottom left, it's kind of a large bottom left of your quick reference guide. You've got this leader action and order activation table. And you've got at the top, it tells you how the basic mechanic works. Here's the procedure for using the table, as well as when someone gets to use this table. And then it has a list of modifiers, and then it has results. And that's basically, so we've got, let's see how precise I can be with my my pinging here. So we've got when you get to do this, you get, oh, yeah, that's not going to help anybody. How, followed by modifiers, followed by results at the bottom. So who wants to go first?
Doug,
we'll walk through this subsequently.
I will keep the camera on here so that Doug can do it while you narrate.
All right.
Wonderful. Okay, so Doug, what is your command rating? Your leadership rating? It is the letter grade.
I am a B.
You're a B. So you are the issuer of this leader action. You are the player attempting the thing. So issuing commander's leadership rating, B, has a value of +2. Personally commanding, no, that's only applying to formations and you're just hanging out by yourself. Receiving commander's leadership rating. This particular leader action is unique in that you are both the issuer and the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take your rating again, so you are a +4 now. And I'm going to cheat and tell you that none of the other modifiers apply.
Right.
There are a bunch of them. They're effectively all circumstances. So instead of having corner case rules for how to handle different situations, when you're taking a command test, we simply have modifiers for them. So you're going to be a +4. If we look at the procedure, it says roll 2 dice, 2d6 to attempt. So roll yourself 2d6, and what do we get?
Got a 7 + 4, so an 11.
An 11. And if we look at the results table, it says 7 or more is success. So you successfully set your objective.
There we go. My objective is set. So
Now we have Davoo over here. Now, out of curiosity, what's Davoo's leadership rating?
A.
He's an A, is he? Really? Okay. So
we're all shocked.
So he's an A, he's +3, and he's also the receiver, so he's +3 again. Now on the results table, you need a 7 or more to succeed. And what's the least that Davoo can roll on 2d6?
2.
2. So he's natively an 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
We play with some people who could roll 1 on a 2d6.
I'm telling you.
But
So he automatically succeeds. There
Right.
is no automatic failure if you roll something. So his objective is also just set.
Okay.
So that we are done with leader actions. We are done with the command phase. Notice none of your formations have active orders right now. So they are all, technically, they are all considered to be on defend.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be rolling for them to activate them at the start of the next turn. So the first thing that we have going on is movement. And the first, one of you gentlemen raised about proximity.
Mm-hmm.
Because these two cavalry elements start rather close to each other. Cavalry order conversions are the ability for an order to convert to another order. And that is based on either the troop type, such as cavalry, or the order, such as support and reserve, or reaching your objective, the formation converts to defend. Cavalry, so long as it has a target within arc, which is 45 degrees, and one movement, which the deployed cavalry at this ground scale move 10 inches, and the distance to target here is under 10 inches, with looks like no intervening terrain. So those French light cav could convert and go hit that Austrian avant-garde. Now, pop quiz question for you guys. I know that in the last year that you've owned copies of ESR, you have memorized the rule book. Can the Austrian avant-garde convert?
This sounds like such a trick question.
I didn't.
I
did not get that far in the rule book.
Oh, okay.
I will admit that I did not get that far.
Cavalry-only formations can convert from anything to attack. The avant-garde has got some infantry here in the form of Grenzers. That means they are a mixed formation.
Aha.
They cannot convert. The cavalry is effectively tied to the infantry.
Oh, okay.
And that tether makes it less flexible. So the French have the option, if they want, to convert and go hit this Austrian avant-garde. It's a gamble. You can decide whether or not you think that is a wonderful idea or not. One thing I will tell you is cavalry are largely a one-shot missile.
Yeah, okay, and this was exactly the thing that I learned when I played this scenario out with my son. I thought I was screwing up the rules when I suddenly found myself fatigued beyond redemption.
Oh, that's completely plausible.
And so my answer to you conceptually is, especially given how I view this, no, I do not wish to convert this.
Okay.
So I cannot tell you how deeply pleased I am. Not only that he is not converting, but that cavalry is treated that way.
They're very fragile.
Extremely. They're glass cannons.
Yes, they're rather powerful, but you really want to use them as an exploitation force, if at all possible, and as a threat. You know, cavalry kind of similarly to massed artillery, like a grand battery. It's really not. We as wargamers get real excited about how much damage can I do with this, but their real power is ground denial. You lay out a grand battery or you lay out a massive cavalry, and all of a sudden the enemy is going to be looking to figure out how to avoid that ground that your element controls. So we don't have any order conversions at the moment. Nobody's reached their objective, right? Because both of you are targeting the crossroads nominally or that village.
Correct.
So movement happens as the second step during the movement phase, and we don't have any because none of your formations have any active directives. The next step after that is ploy and deploy. So you've got some Austrian troops in this column here. You've got some French troops in this column here. Do either one of them want to start deploying, which is the process of getting out of that column?
Yeah, boy.
Probably a very good decision for the Austrians. The French, they're a little bit farther back. They're a little bit more shielded. I don't know.
That was my feeling on the subject. We're not going to deploy.
Okay, and do keep in mind that the minimum number of units that you can get per turn deploying is 2. The maximum is 5. So you can figure these are pretty small formations, which is perfectly wonderful for this scenario and this sort of game. But if you start playing some historical scenarios, instead of having formations of like 5, you'll have formations of like 12 or 15. And it may very well take like 3 to 5 turns to deploy an infantry division. So you really got to plan a little bit about when you're going to do what and where. So Austrians are going to deploy, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and you can deploy on any order. It is simply a choice. No matter what order or status of formation is on, you can always roll to deploy. So deploy is the bottom left green table on the front of the quick reference guide. And we're going to be rolling 2d6, because that's what we do for practically everything. And this happens after that formation has completed its movement. You have to do your movement first, then you deploy. The leadership rating of the formation commander, Ulm, what is that?
He is a C.
Wonderful. So leadership rating of formation commander, C is a +1. Does the formation have any fatigue on it?
It does not.
That's good. Each full third of movement used, it moved nowhere, right?
Correct.
So no full thirds of movement. There's a negative modifier for each full third, and it is full third. So if my movement, for instance, on a cavalry formation on a good road is 15 inches, 5 inches is a third, 4 inches is not a third. So if something halted me at 12 inches out of my 15 inches of movement, I would be paying for 2 full thirds, not 3. That makes sense?
Yes.
So in this case, he was stationary, so no full thirds of movement. We said it was 1809, I think, at some point.
Correct.
When there is no penalty for the Austrians in 1809. They don't look like they're deploying in rough or dense terrain. They're just hanging out in the open on a road.
Yes.
So there's no penalty there. They're not currently in a reserve order. If anything, they're considered on a defend order. So there's no bonus there. Do you want to rush deployment? The benefit is you deploy faster because you're rushing. The penalty is the formation automatically takes fatigue because you're rushing.
No, I don't think we need to rush.
That is a good decision. So go ahead and roll 2d6 and add 1 for having a C-rated commander there.
Here we go. And we rolled 11 plus
nice.
1, 12.
Nice.
Nice. So you're going to get 5 units. Each stand is a unit. How many units you got in that formation?
I've got 5 plus my artillery plus my
Reformation area.
Reformation area.
So the Reformation area just transitions to, it's effectively a marker. So it does not count against that penalty. It's just going to, when you're done here, it's going to be about 6 inches back from your rear battle wave.
Okay.
Your artillery, if you look at the results portion of the Ploy and Deploy table, the last unit is automatic, as is any artillery transferring to a deployed reserve. So the artillery is going to automatically just go to the rear center of the formation, sort of by where you have the formation commander sitting right behind the battle waves. The units can each transition to deploy. They get to move 1.5 inches. It's 225 yards. So
Okay.
a base is about an inch and a quarter in this ground scale. So you can shimmy those guys about. It's not going to be enough for them to be all nicely laid out, but it is going to get them out of that column.
Right. So you said an inch and a half.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
All right. So these guys will make it up here. Right there. These boys. And because we're not dealing with, since this is grand tactical, facing is immaterial, right?
That is correct. You can face them however the heck you want. The only thing you care about is you don't want an enemy striking the rear edge of a unit.
Okay. All right. All right. And I assume the artillery and everything else just moves up.
It does now because the artillery transitions to the formation reserve, which is nominally right about there right now, which is also where the formation commander goes. So you can grab Ulm and move him back there, and then the artillery, as this happens, is you can jockey it off the road if you like, but it's
good enough
in a
where
legal
it is.
position right now. Yeah, as is probably your Reformation area. So you measure from your rear wave, your Reformation area. Heck, we're dead on 6. It looks
perfect.
Like.
Yep.
It's behind your center. So there you go. Now let's say you had a larger division, and not everyone got deployed. 2 things of note. One is, while you are in a sort of mixed status of some units are deployed and some units are still ployed, the greatest gap between any 2 stands can't be larger than that inch and a half. So you're kind of constrained until everybody's deployed. The other thing is, no, the rest of the column does not advance.
Okay.
The column moves, and then the units deploy.
Right.
The column does not move again. So you end up kind of with a tether there when you are deploying out. Make sense?
It does.
Completely.
A lot of sense.
Wonderful. Then the last step in movement is fatigue recovery. Nobody has any fatigue, so we don't really have any fatigue to recover. I did not talk about... This is a fatigue-driven system. So real quick, while we still have some ployed formations on the table, the threshold for fatigue is the number of deployed units. So this avant-garde has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deployed units. Its threshold for fatigue is 5. When it reaches 5, it will automatically retreat. If it reaches 150%, so 8 in this case, then it would break. And both of those are bad things for the uninitiated. So fatigue represents all bad things: casualties, actual fatigue and exhaustion, loss of command control, confusion, what have you. There's no casualty marking, and there is almost no stand removal in ESR. So we don't have any fatigue to recover. We are on to artillery and skirmishing. Do we have any infantry within 450 yards, which in this ground scale is 3 inches, of the enemy? It doesn't look like it.
I would say not.
And we don't have any committed artillery.
Nope.
So there's no artillery to fire and to shoot. We go to combat, and we have another order conversion opportunity. So the French could, if they wanted to, throw away their cav and charge them forward right now.
We are currently still enjoying our elegant long cigars.
Wonderful. Okay, so we want to make combat resolutions. So we are at
my Hungarian hussars are mocking your hussars because you are not real hussars. You are pale French imitations.
And I just want to show the folks at home, because Giorgio is friend of show. These are, in fact, look at that. Those are the actual, one of the problems we always have with Tabletop Simulator is we get the models that we get. These, ladies and gentlemen, are the Erzherzog Ferdinand Hussars.
And they are breathtaking.
And
that is wonderful.
And they even brought a trumpet. So there you go.
They did. And they have splendid hussar mustaches.
They do as well. That's what it's about.
I know a group out of Buffalo, New York that made T-shirts this year for the spring convention season that was unfortunately largely canceled, that said, do you paint mustaches on your horses? And it had a picture of Napoleon riding a horse with a mustache.
Well, we at the Armchair Dragoons, Doug and I are both officers in a fraternity we have evolved known as La Fraternité de Boutons Carrés, because of our love of proper square buttons. So there you go. Lovely painted mustaches and square buttons. What else could a fellow want in life? Also, I noticed did he give them? I think he did. The proper side curls too. So it's all good. It's all very good.
So we're at command on turn 2.
Yes.
And the first step is activate orders.
Oh dear.
So the question that I have is, does anybody want to roll to activate any of your formation's directives?
Well, I think I would like also to watch Doug do it so I can have the folks follow along at home with all the rules. And then I'll do it myself.
Sounds good.
So the answer is yes, obviously. Question, I'm deploying and I have a move order. So is it worth activating the move order?
Ooh, excellent question. So the first sort of inferred thing that I should answer is you certainly can activate that order if you wish to. The next thing I should say is rolling to activate an order is always a choice. You can indefinitely delay. So you are not required to roll to activate that order. The third context to tell you is if you activate that order, then yes, during movement, that formation will move, and it has to.
Oh.
You've activated its movement order. If you didn't want it to move, you obviously would not have activated that order.
Ooh.
Right.
So completely up to you from a gameplay strategy standpoint in this given situation. Is it a good idea to move or not? Well, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about a distance of how far are you going to go? The furthest that you could go is going to be less than 6 inches, because you're required to, on a move order, you're required to stop at 450 yards skirmish range of the enemy. So you are not going to move through the village. You could move into the village.
Right.
If you want to. That's just a question of, do you think that you're better off moving into the village or staging yourself before you invest?
I'm completely convinced that I should stage myself and be deployed before I move. So I see no reason to activate that move order. I do, however, think it would be a good idea to activate, though they're de facto already doing this, activate the defend order for my avant-garde.
So that's, as I mentioned before, defend is the default order, so you do not have to roll for a defend order. It's just boom, active. And then you've got your last formation that is sort of partially on table under Brady here. Well, you want to activate him or no?
Yeah, let's go ahead and activate his move order.
Wonderful. So you've already done this procedure before. It's just going to use different modifiers. It's that same order activation and leader action table on the bottom left hand of the front page in blue. You're going to roll 2d6. You are going to add your leadership rating to the receiver, Brady's leadership rating. And there may be some other modifiers, including a penalty for the distance.
Okay.
So
both of them are Bs, so they're both +1.
+2.
Oh, sorry, +2. Yeah.
So you're at 4.
Okay.
You're not personally commanding this formation or another one, so no effect there. The issuing commander, we're going to, just for sake of argument, we're going to say there are no superior vantage points on this table. So we can deal with that, but that would be a benefit if you would be on one. Every 12 inches from receiving commander, if we measure, it looks like you are nominally 14 inches from the guy that you're trying to get to do something. So he's just over a mile away. Every full mile, this is just like movement when we're talking about deployment penalties. Every full mile is -1. So you're going to be -1 for the distance. And neither you nor he is within 6 inches or 3 inches of the enemy, correct?
Correct.
Then you are a net +3 and roll 2 dice. You want to make a 7.
There it is.
Well, don't try any harder than you have to.
There it is.
Now, if let's say that you had rolled a net 3 to 6, right? Let's say that you had rolled 1 less on your dice, so you had a net of 6. Then Brady's order would be delayed half 1d6 turns. So, for instance, if you rolled a 4 on that subsequent die 1d6 roll for delay, then in 2 turns he would start doing this, and in the meantime he'd just sit there like a lame duck. He could still deploy, but he would not be able to follow this order.
How very 19th century of us.
Yes.
So he's active. Have we got any French that want to activate?
Yes. My guy, let's see here. I got a couple, actually.
And the order that you choose to activate these is entirely up to you. And each player gets to make 1 attempt per target formation that they want to attempt.
All right. Well, I'm going to have Devu wake up Friant, please.
So do the math.
Let's see. A and A, that's a +6. The distance.
And for those listening, this is going to be a great opportunity to pick on someone for picking Devu in the 3rd Corps again.
I'm just. I do feel a little dirty at this point. I won't lie. If it is as the
Frenchman feeling dirty. Come on now, let's stay away from stereotypes.
It is as the crow flies, 14.5 inches, same distance as it turns out. So that's a -1. So it would be a net 5 as I count it.
So you cannot roll less than 7.
Correct.
Or a net 7.
So he's
right.
So Friant automatically activates. And then go ahead and do the next one that you want to.
Yep. So I'm going to haul over here, and I'm going to grab my guy Saint-Hilaire, who is also an A, and therefore can't fail. And Montbrun, who's a B, and therefore is a 5 and can't fail. So we're good. Thank you.
It was like a Journey song. You were building up to something there, and then there was just no crescendo.
Wow. Wow, that was kind of an arch pull, David. That was an arch pull. You got to be of an age to find that funny, and Doug and I do.
I totally say that as a fan of Journey, but
I
pick on Journey for
but
something.
we know what the thing is, like I say, you just got to be of a certain age to know what that's talking about.
That's right.
Very commonly, I make Joe Walsh references during games as well. We'll see if we end up in one of those situations.
Life's been good. That's so.
Indeed. So, everybody who's attempted to activated.
Mm-hmm.
And then our next step is issue orders. Now, these orders are going to persist until something intercedes. So if all of a sudden the Austrians said, I had these guys on move, I didn't choose to activate them, I have changed my mind, and I want to issue them something else, you could issue them a new order now, and it would replace the current pending order.
Oddly enough, that's exactly what I want to do.
So you simply trash that one, and you can put out a new one.
Which one you want to get rid of, Doug?
Let me think about this for a minute. Do I really want to do that, or do I really? Given the space, I don't think I want to change it yet. No, we're good.
All right.
Okay. So then leader actions. Now, there's a list of about a dozen, and they describe different things you can do, like take personal command or change your objective. So if either of you wants to change your objective because you no longer want to be charging into that village, now is the opportunity. If you want to commit an artillery battery, now is the time. And I should tell you, an artillery battery sits in the formation reserve until it's committed. When it's committed, it gets a free move out of sequence. So if the Austrians wanted to commit Ulm's divisional artillery here, it would get to jump. What is artillery? It's probably a foot battery, I'm guessing, and the formation is now deployed, so it would move 8 inches. So it could move somewhere in this arc. Now, if it moves through friendlies, it's going to pay for that. If it moves through terrain, it's going to pay for that. But assuming it wanted to move its max and has straight shot, it could just shoot up to a position by the avant-garde if it wanted to, and it can be deployed or deployed at the end of that.
Well, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Or sorry, not
at
deployed
all.
or deployed, limbered or unlimbered, I should say.
Right. I don't think that's a bad idea at all, and I think I would like to commit that artillery battery. And I would like to do exactly what you just said, put it up here by the avant-garde, covering the town and those nasty imitation hussars.
Give me 1 second. I just don't want this thing doing the bad thing. I don't trust it.
So you may be familiar with this procedure. It's a leader action. So you're going to take the issuing commander's leadership ring, yours,
Right?
plus the leadership ring of the receiving commander, Ulm.
Right? Both two.
Minus 1 for every full intervening foot, which there's not one.
Nope.
And then if you get way down to the bottom of the modifiers, commit artillery battery from formation reserve is +2.
All right, so that's 2, 4, 6 right there. Which means I really can't fail.
Cannot fail.
5. You still can fail, but Hohenzollerns a B, Ulm is a C.
That's
so
right.
You're a
He's
3
C.
plus 2 for the artillery.
3 plus 2. Yeah, I'm a 5. Right.
Does not impact it. So the artillery can move, and it can go up to a full movement in any direction. If you pass through friendlies, you have to pay double for the amount you pass through. So if you pass through, a 1-inch base, you have to pay 2 inches for that.
So where do we measure from? Do we measure from the
any part of the base?
Okay.
And it can be limbered or unlimbered at the end of it.
All right. So if to get up there puts me at 6.7, but I'm going to go through a friendly base.
And they can take. It's a little bit. I don't know if there's a curved measuring tool with this, but yeah, if you go out 2 inches to the side.
Oh, there you go.
Right. Okay. So there's 2.
Yep.
And then go up. You can get where you want to, and you do not pass through anybody.
All right. So I want to be unlimbered, and right there. How's that?
The limber just goes behind the gun with the horses pointed at the gun. And do pay attention to range and arc, because that artillery, once it's unlimbered, it does not move. It does not pivot until you make another one of these command rolls to limber it up. So you can think of limbered is it in a moving disposition or is it in a shooting disposition? And its arc is 45 degrees, which is representing the fact that it actually is moving and pivoting within its base.
Right, absolutely. Right. So I can cover the middle of the village.
And it shoots 6 inches. It shoots a half mile.
It's as if you don't want my lovely hussars to enter that road.
Oddly, I seem to be of that opinion. Not to mention that Hohenzollern really enjoys the smell of artillery firing.
Ah.
Or horse poo. Who knows?
He's Austrian. It's hard to say.
Mm.
Good enough. I have done my thing.
So then, do we have any other leader actions? There's a whole list of them. Generally speaking, the ones you guys are going to be concerned about until something terrible happens is: do you want to move your objective, and do you want to commit any artillery?
Right. And the answer to both those questions for me is I sure don't yet.
Wonderful. So we are on to movement, order conversions. Does Montbrun want to throw away his cavalry yet?
Nice. How can I refuse? No, thanks. That's good.
Then we are on movement.
Awesome.
And everyone
somehow you're
even
less excited now that I have a gun up there.
Huh? Hey, sir, we weren't big on it before, and now it's really kind of great.
So, movement, everyone moves according to their orders. The Austrians have got a bunch of guys who are effectively considered on defend, right? We've got, actually, they most certainly are considered on defend because these activate it. So this avant-garde, it can rearrange its stance. It can get out of the way of this artillery. The artillery needs a firing lane the width of its base. And they can move around. They can expand their frontage. They can contract their frontage. They can't leave the general area that they occupy. So they're clearly on this hill. They could not go to this hill without their order changing or their objective changing, because they would clearly be leaving the hill. Could they move to the bottom of the slope? Sure. Could they move around on it? Sure. But they couldn't pick up and go somewhere else. Similarly, Ulm's infantry division here can clean itself up and lay out in battle waves if it wants. People ask, do I want to have multiple waves? And the question is, do you think you'll win? If you think that you'll win, hands down, then there's no reason to be in multiple waves. If you think it's possible that some of your men might not win, then it's good to have a safety net behind them. Support in combat is considered. And I'm jockey around one of your bases here. I think if I can figure out how to move it without flipping the table over. So the 21st Rohan Infantry here, the battalion in the back, currently has its frontage overlaps this battalion to the right and this battalion to the left. So both of these are considered supported by this stand. It is a question of distance. The distance has to be, I want to say it's 1.5 inches. Somebody wrote it down in the rule book. But I want to say it's 1.5 inches and 225 yards and overlapping frontage, meaning that your frontage overlaps with their unit. This unit here, this battalion on the left, is not supported by anybody because there's no one behind them right now. That makes sense?
Yep.
There's no one behind them yet.
Yes.
Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky.
And you can move them when you're moving them right now. They're on defend order. They don't have any restriction on how fast they move. They simply can't leave the general area that they occupy. So they can go.
Sorry, I just had.
They can go up to 8 inches in a freaking circle to end.
I had one of those eureka moments. I get it now. Now that they are deployed out of that space, they can start to do this. Got it.
Okay, so given that, then I should be able to move Ulm up.
Yeah, and Ulm automatically just maintains his relative position. And similar with your Reformation area.
Yeah, I want to be 6 inches back. So, basically right about there. Yep.
Perfect.
Cool. Now I have a deployed brigade. Division, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. And now I got a whole column of guys back here that want to move.
Yes. A ployed column moves as a single unit from its head. So Brady here is your axis of movement. You can curve them like a snake off to, wherever. You're never required to march through friends. So just like that terrain, so you don't have to just go through the back of Ulm's formation. You could curve around this wood. But you do have to move your full movement, and you do have to move towards your force's objective by the most direct route, except for intervening stuff.
Okay. And that full movement is?
10 inches ployed off-road or on poor roads, 10 inches. They really need a curved measuring tool.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think that this TTS is fantastic simply because when you were a kid, weren't you like, oh man, computers, I wish I could just, play all the games that I have, but with the pieces that I don't have.
Yeah, entirely. I mean, that's what we've really found is, Jim and I have day jobs. So sort of day jobs that keep us rather occupied.
Well, you have that problem. I started a game company.
Yeah, well, I started a company too, just not a game company.
You know what I do all day? Work.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I do development for Hollandspiel in my spare time. So I'm basically working when I'm not working.
Yeah, I've worked for in my career. I've worked for nonprofits. I've worked for profits. I've worked for academic institutions. I've worked for very large corporations. I've worked as a consultant for a consulting firm, and I've never. Well, I take that back. When I worked for Apple, there were times that I worked similar hours as to when I worked for myself. But otherwise, otherwise, when you work for yourself, I imagine it's like being a lawyer or some other service professional, where you're sitting there going, I could be billing right now if I was working.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when it's your own job, work, vocation that you're doing, you're going, I could hang out, except that project would be further ahead if I worked on it now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All
That's right.
So you have moved.
The French can be movement simultaneous, so the French can be doing their thing, and some people get real worried about this, but you're pretty much locked in, because that your formations have to move according to their orders, and they have to move towards the formation objective by a relatively regimented route.
Oh yeah, no, I was just trying to show the folks at home. I am in love with the fact that Doug and I could clearly be doing this simultaneously.
Well, and I'm in love with the fact that you're constrained by orders.
Yes.
They can be whatever you want them to be, but then you have to do them.
Yeah, right. Which, is an interesting thing. I was thinking about that in the context of another game earlier that has an order system. It's not exactly like this, but you're compelled to do certain things, and I really think if you're dealing with this period or earlier and you don't have an order system, you're really not capturing the period very well.
I think that's right. So these fellas are going to support, and my idea is they will shift over here and to the back to take advantage of this hill and to be behind Saint-Hilaire's men as they move forward. Is that tolerable?
Sure.
All right.
Perfectly legal. And one of the reasons that support is so flexible is that on move and attack, circumstances aside, a formation's got to use all of its movement. And by the way, yes, you can move yourself right now, and you can move yourself however the heck you want because you're you. But you can stop short. You're moving to hit your objective, and you go, okay, I've hit the town, so I'm there. You don't have to continue moving because you have movement left. But if you are more than a move away from your objective, you've got to move full. Well, on support, that's not true. On support, I just have to make sure that I am relatively valid compared to whoever I'm supporting, which is just, am I off of a flank or the rear? I may move a lot, I may move a little.
10 inches on... Oh, what is it on a road?
Road... we did not say whether these were good roads or bad roads, but we can claim that they're... Do you guys have a preference?
I would think that they are... Well, it's through a town, so I guess they're... Well, what's a good road? Well, you wrote the rules. What's a good road?
12 inches versus 10.
Well, I would... But I mean, conceptually in your mind, what is a...
Well, it's a... Spanish roads are all poor.
Okay, that's... well, these are Austrian roads. So
Polish roads are all... We're in Greater Germany. Well, I guess Greater Germany is a post-World War I thing. But,
sure.
If you were... in the 18th century, they'd call it, the Empire of Germany, the Old Holy Roman Empire. They're probably pretty good roads.
Okay, so this is a 12-inch move. I may have put myself in a situation.
Now, you may halt anywhere within artillery range of... They're on a move order, correct?
They're actually on an attack order.
Oh, they're on an attack order. Oh, okay, more fun things to learn. So on an attack order, you have a choice. Because you are ployed, you may not move and deploy, though you must deploy as quickly as... You don't have to rush, but you have to deploy the max number of units that you can.
Yes.
Rather than move. Or you can move. You can choose. You're not forced to go in unprepared.
Okay.
You can get out and choose to stay put.
I was
in
afraid.
which case you do not move at all.
I was afraid. Yeah, we are obvious. We are going to attack, and given that we now see these jokers over here anyway, and what Doug's up to, I think the sensible thing is to deploy.
Okay. Do move Montbrun's Reformation Area, so it's over 6 inches back from him.
Yes. Thank you.
Because it's a dynamic marker. So long as it's not contacted by the enemy, it just moves. If it gets contacted, it is frozen.
Yep.
Which is, bad. So Friant moved, the Austrians moved, Montbrun moved, Saint Hilaire is hanging out because he does not want to attack while ployed, right?
Correct.
So we are on to the ploy-deploy step of the phase, and if Brady wants to deploy, he can roll to do so. If Saint Hilaire wants to deploy, you can roll to do so.
Well, I'm certainly going to deploy.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so I would look here, and I do know that I am an A, which is a 3. I have no fatigue. I have not moved. I am French line in this period. Oh, I don't get my +2. I only get a +1. So
yeah, it's rough.
Life is hard. For not deploying into any bad terrain. I'm not going to rush. A +4 is my
there you go.
My sussing of it. That's not the best in the world. Like Doug got, I get to deploy 4 units. 1.5 inches. I get my guy out of the way. He stays put. They go here. Squeaky. Stop it. There we go. There's a total of 4. I'll take a look here.
How many did you get?
4.
Okay. And your last unit is, you've got 5 total?
He said, you'd think I'd know these things. Yes, correct.
Your last one is always free.
Aha. So
if you have 5 and you have a result of 4, then you get all 5.
All right, so I'll just move him up here because I like that support thing Doug's doing. I think that's admirable. All right. And I just will... So once again, just going over it, my guns aren't going anywhere just yet because I don't think they're ready.
The artillery moves up to immediately behind your rear wave.
That was it, to immediately.
So
that's right.
Yep, so the artillery will move to right there, as will the formation commander.
All right, so he'll go here. And my discombobulation area, or my reformation area, is 6 inches back of this.
Correct.
Mark. There it is. And I also have an artillery reserve.
So now there's a question for you. So is that artillery its own formation, or is it
what
part
I'm going
of a
to
formation?
what I'm going to do is I'm going to ditch it because it's already excessive as I look at it. So we're going to pretend as if it were near here.
That sounds like somebody who feels bad that they
took free. Yes.
For an intro game. Here's an intro game. What were you thinking? Well, I thought the guard was too much, so I went with
Not too far wrong. Not too far wrong. So, all right. So,
no, I will say that you did pick competent Austrians. You know, you and the Austrians are not horrible. It's not like you picked like 1811 Spanish.
Right.
Right.
So, all right. So
these are reasonable. These are Wagram era Austrians.
So we've got. So I have now deployed these fellows. These fellows are on their order. These fellows are moving. So I'm done.
Wonderful. So we are done with the movement step of the movement phase and the employ and deploy step. Fatigue, we don't have any to recover. Artillery and skirmishing is next up. I don't think anybody's in range. Nobody within 3 of infantry, nobody within 6 of artillery, right?
I should say no.
Nope, not yet.
Wonderful. Then I think that we are combat order conversions, unless the French want to convert their Cav brigade. I think we're going to top of turn 3.
Yep, that sounds right.
So top of turn 3, we've got activation of orders. Do we have any pending orders? I think the Austrians have got one.
I've got a pending order, but
you don't have to roll if you don't want to. Up to you.
Nope, not going to, because I'm gonna change. Well, no, I'm not. I'm gonna go ahead and roll. Yep.
Ooh, decisive Austrian. Very scary.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and roll. So I'm a +2 +1, so that's a +3, and I believe that's it.
That's probably it.
Yep.
Plus 2 dice.
Right. Oh yeah.
There it is.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So they're under a move order.
Okay.
But their objective is the village. So
that's the formation, the forces objective.
Right. So basically, they move up there and stop, right?
And anywhere in or around it. Yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't. You could probably. I mean, you're within like an inch of it right now. So if you really wanted to, you'd say they've reached their objective. They're going to convert to defend. That'd be kind of silly, but you could. You could also, push as far as you could and say, well, until I get within 3 inches of the enemy, I'm going to move until that point. That makes sense?
Yeah, right. So they're 10 inches, right? Is their max?
They are deployed, so it is 8.
Okay, all right.
And we did not address terrain when we started the scenario. So there's a question of, we've got woods and we've got these villages. I don't. Gosh, did anybody write down? Did we make this scenario up, or is it? Did somebody think to write it out in a book? Let's see what we've got.
No, it's on a website somewhere.
Oh, I hate the internet. All I can ever find is pictures of cats. Don't get me wrong, I like cats. It's just that
everybody likes cats.
That's all that's on the internet, that and pornography. And it's difficult to find things that you're looking for that are not those.
Georgia put buttons on these boots. It's crazy.
Whose boots?
My
boots?
Your Austrians.
Those are gators.
Oh, those are gators? Oh, of course they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silly enough, the sample scenario tells us that we should define what the terrain is.
Yes, so, I read that. I wasn't going to say anything.
Wasn't that cute of some putts to do? So dense, we haven't talked about terrain at all. Rough terrain, costs double to move through. So every inch of rough terrain costs 2 inches. Dense terrain is the worst form of terrain that you're allowed to go into. And it costs double, but it also causes you to halt when you hit it. So, for instance, if this battalion of the 21st Austrian Infantry were to move forward an inch and hit the border of this village, if that was a dense village, it would halt there. The following turn, it would proceed at half rate through the village, and when it reached the other side, it would halt again. Effectively, what we're showing there is that the troops have to break out of formation to move through this embarrassing terrain and then reform on the other side of it. So I think for point of general play for this scenario, we'll call the woods and the 2 villages both simply rough.
Very good.
The other thing I'll tell you about rough and dense is that irregulars and troops that are designated as lights, which does not necessarily mean a Leger battalion for the French. It simply means a battalion that is trained with the lights characteristic. So if you're proficient in working in bad terrain,
I brought the 10th
then
chair.
Yeah, you'd be considered to be lights. You might be a line battalion, but you're good at this. And they get a bonus when they are fighting in dense. So we'll say these are very insignificant villages. They're kind of sparse. And so we'll just consider them as rough.
Very good.
Okay.
So if you're every inch of village you move through will cost 2 inches.
Yeah, so
and we'll say that
we're
we're defining that as the perimeter.
Yeah, you can see
Right, so-
it is marked out with the yellow.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how cool is that?
Yeah. So I it's roughly it's almost 2 inches. It's 1.7 inches up to that from that battalion. I could really get about 5 inches up the road here with the formation as a whole, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right to you, Jim?
It sure does.
I just heard her sneeze.
That's the video editor right there.
Yep. So how about them apples?
Looks right
Perfect.
to me.
Okay.
So that was you changing an order.
Well, no, they were under move orders, and I activated them.
Got it.
And then I actually moved, which may have been premature.
Did I just totally miss a step?
Yeah, I think you did. But
Yeah.
that's okay. It's not going to affect too much.
So yeah, we do activation of orders, then issuing, then any other. Do either one of you have any new leader actions? Probably not.
I don't. Nope. Sure don't.
No.
And then we go to order conversions. So unless
None of
Maroon
those.
wants to get rid of his cav, we're good.
Nope.
So then regular movement, and the Austrians move into that town.
Right.
Now, let's say that Saint Hilaire here, he's on an attack order and he's fully deployed. He has to go.
Mm-hmm.
So what's Saint Hilaire's max movement, including the penalty he'll take for now? Oh, it's rough. Are all of Saint Hilaire's battalions are probably all designated as lights? Yes. They are CR5, and then there's an L designation on them. So they all have that light characteristic. Lights ignore rough terrain. So the movement for St. Hilaire's formation is going to be its full 8 inches. And it won't be able to hit the Austrians. But it will go into the village to roundabouts there. Now, since this is actually happening simultaneously, the two sides move at the same speed, right?
Yep.
Until the Austrians hit the buildings, which is almost immediately. And then the French are moving twice as fast. The Austrians have to stop at 3 inches because they're on a move order.
Aha.
So, if the French maximum movement is, depending on where I measure, they actually would hit. But if the French's maximum movement is nominally there, the closest the Austrians can be to them is 3 inches to that point.
Right.
That makes sense to you guys?
It does.
Yep.
So I do this, which I am obligated to do, and I get to there.
Correct.
Right. So I'm going to end up
3 inches from there.
3 inches
is just
from
inside
there.
the village.
Yeah, that's right there.
Oh, we see you, sausage eater.
Are these our special magic buildings or not?
These are special magic buildings.
Cool. So I can sit there and not tip over.
Right.
Now, the thing that the Austrians really want to be aware of here is when they move their infantry battalions.
Are they masking their battery?
Yes, and you don't want to do that. So, you've got these, and you can rearrange these battalions as you move. So you can take these guys on the flank if you want and stick them over
Right. I can
to the left or what have you.
Yeah, I can unmask my battery, which I'm going to do.
And I'm assuming that so each one of these fellows moves their 8 inches, and they that's as far as they go. And so they're going to wind
correct.
up. They're going to wind up a little goofy like this. Is my point.
Yes, and that is effectively the negative of I activated an attack order while I was ployed, so I deployed and ran forward. I did not take the time to clean up and dress my lines and such. If I had wanted to do that, I wouldn't have activated the attack order so soon.
Got it. Makes
Hey, it's Teugenhausen.
See, I was thinking the same thing. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, it's even. I mean, it's that freaking unit.
It is. It's the 10th Leger.
It is that unit.
How about you guys go run up the Buchberg? How would that be?
You don't have the 57th here, too, do you? Okay, good.
No, they're in the other division.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the two. No, my wife, who climbed the Buchberg with me last summer, is just shaking her head. So. And now I'm going to move. That's what I'm going to do. So I have to stop moving when I arrive within 3 inches of this guy, right?
You may stop anywhere within 6. You must stop at 3 if you're on a move order. Sometimes new players will ask about roads and say, so how come roads don't move any faster than in the open? And they do. It's not substantially faster. And the answer is largely because at this scope of game, the purpose of the road is not to move faster, is to control the vector by which you move.
Yep.
whether I'm on a move order, I don't have to take the most direct route. I can take a road because the road network is how I navigate the battlefield to end up in the position I want without getting my formation lost.
Hey, I see you over there.
Hello.
Marching sausage eater dirtbags.
These were not onion eaters.
Oh, I see. Come straight for the tubers, why don't you?
Have a beer.
Have a beer. I am all set.
I am too.
How big are the Austrians on beer? The Austrians are big on coffee.
Oh, the Austrians love beer.
Germans in general love beer.
Not as much as the Bavarians mind.
Sure.
I mean, in Bavaria, it's fast near a religion. But I mean, shoot. I mean, where we stayed up when we visited the Jena battlefield, that paper mill that was there at the time of the battlefield is still there. And it's, of course, now a brewery. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the end of movement.
Yes.
We have ploy and deploy. So if anybody wants to, there's
so much deploying going on over here. I can't even handle myself.
I'm deploying.
Wonderful, go for it.
You want to go first, Doug? Well, I'll have you walk through your modifiers, and I'll show the people at home.
All right. So leadership modifier is a +2 and a +2.
All right.
So that's +4.
You only get the +.
It's only the guy who's there.
Yeah.
When you are deploying, it is only the commander who's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because it's not an issued order, right? So it's +2.
And did you move?
Correct.
Yep.
What's
that?
Did you move at all?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, every full third is a -1.
Yep. And so that's a -3.
Ooh.
Because I moved 10.
Okay. So.
And I am not deploying into rough terrain yet.
Yeah,
So it's that's the deal. It's a +2 -3, so it's a -1.
Very good.
It's a -1. 2d6 -1. Good enough.
That's 4 fellers.
Yep. And the 5th one's free.
And the 5th one's free. All right.
Well, only I had a 5th one.
While you're doing that,
that,
I will do mine. I am Friant A. I have used no thirds. I barely moved at all. It turns out I was quite close to. I was closer than I realized to your actual hussars, or actually to your Grenzers. So it's a +3 for being A. I am French, but it is not the glory years. It's the glory sub B years. So it's a +4 for me. For a total of 9, which I think is the same as you. Yep.
Yeah.
4 fellers. Stop it.
And then remember, the largest gap you can have is 1.5 inches, since you do not have everyone deployed yet. So there you go, you're good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting the feller. So I'm done. Wow, okay. So these bigger divisions, like you say, they get stuck.
It'll take you a while.
They get stuck smoking cigarettes back here. All right, but that
so if you assume that your typical full strength division during most of the period is 9 to 12 battalions of infantry plus some number of batteries, you can fairly assume that the average expected time to deploy is going to be 3 to 4 turns, and that the French are going to be nominally 1 turn faster than the Allies. So, do the French have some advantage? Yes. Is it a huge advantage? No. They have some little ones, and it is not, even here. So, the French here have got clearly the best corps command available during the period, right? And the net result of the Austrians, who I would say this is a fairly typical Austrian force for the period in terms of commander ratings. Some Bs and some Cs, and maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, but roughly there. And while the French have been automatic, the likelihood of the Austrians failing any of their rolls has been very low.
Right.
The problem isn't even the worst rated commander with the worst rated subordinate still has an above average chance of succeeding, because 2d6 average rolls a 7, and you're adding +2 to that if you've got 2 C-rated commanders. Where it begins to fall apart is proximity to the enemy, fatigue, distance between the issuing commander and the receiving subordinate.
Yes.
And so those are the situations in which the French will stay flexible longer than many of the Allies will.
Very good.
So we're done with deploying.
Yes, we are.
Artillery and skirmishing. I think we have some now.
I think we do.
Yeah, we do indeed.
So the artillery battery is within 6 of an enemy and within 45 degrees. So this is not a choice. It fires. If you did not want it to fire, you would not have unlimbered it.
All right.
I like this approach.
What do you think it is for?
Their artillery crew, and their job is to shoot cannons at the enemy, provided they have a target. So as soon as there is a target, if they're unlimbered, they go, oh, I know what my job here is. I shoot.
We missed our calling, Doug. We missed our calling.
We did indeed. We're going to get that cannon in your park.
I'm telling you. What my friend Doug is referring to is I discovered that there is a cannon that may date back to the Battle of Trafalgar, currently parked through a variety of strange changes of hands in a Milwaukee City park.
What?
Yeah. I'm having a problem, to be honest. It is no small wonder that Doug and I haven't shown up with a front-end loader and a big truck. But there it is. All right, so we are indeed. I think these fellers are. That seems like musketeer range.
And we've got infantry within.
We definitely do.
That's musketation.
And that as well. Skirmishing is also involuntary, because they're simply trained to do these things. It would actually be more effort to prevent them from doing it than for them to do it.
Yeah, technically, because of how stuff was done here, these guys should be at 3 inches.
Yes, that is correct. Although they will still participate because they halt at 3, and that is where skirmishing occurs. So you should back them up slightly, but it won't change what will happen.
Exactly.
Right. Very good. And you're still in the town, so that too will, I'm sure, have some effect. But we'll find out.
So artillery and skirmishing is a pressure-based system. So we are going to add up some number of points against an enemy target. So here we're doing Austrians first, we're doing French first.
The Austrians can go first.
It's simultaneous results.
Sure. Let me go over here so I can run down some... I imagine this is on the other side of the sheet.
Yes, it is in the top left purple table.
It says artillery, fire, and skirmishing. Very good.
So if we walk through the Austrians first, the first step is declare target formation, which I think is pretty clearly that one.
Yeah,
because it's the only available choice. And then,
for the artillery or for the skirmishing?
It will all be summed together.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So,
the artillery, he's out of range of the artillery.
It is to closest element. So actually, you've got...
you're talking about that dude. You're talking about that dude. Okay.
You are firing at the formation. You are not firing on any given battalion.
Okay.
You don't know or care what they're shooting at. They're shooting at the enemy, we hope. So,
got it.
We declare target formation. It's clearly that one. The intensity of artillery and skirmishing, if you want, you can have them each either bombard or skirmish intensely. If they do that, the formation automatically takes fatigue. The benefit is that you get effectively 150% of whatever points you have going in. I would tell you most of the time it's not worth it.
I was going to say, that seems premature.
You do it...
Right.
Largely you do that either when you know you're going to screen out your artillery. So you know the last round of fire before you're going to contact, you do it. Or you do it because the enemy is coming into you and you're desperate enough to say, no. I'll take the couple of automatic fatigue because I've got to gamble that I do more damage to them on the way in.
Right.
Otherwise, you generally want to avoid it. So I'm guessing what we got is 6-pounder Austrian artillery, and the Austrians, it looks like, are all just line troops that are in the village. So the points are by stand effectively. It's a foot battery of the Austrians, I'm guessing.
Yeah, looks like it. Not horse.
And so probably 8 guns. Every 2 guns is worth some number of points. It's 6-pounders. So if there are 8 guns, then it is worth 4 points, according to the artillery and skirmishing table.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we have 4 points coming from there. Plus, how many infantry battalions do you have within 3 inches and 45 degrees of the enemy?
Three.
3, yeah.
Wonderful. So the Austrians are probably ineffective doctrine. Their avant-garde is probably effective doctrine, but their regular line divisions are probably ineffective doctrine. And those are line battalions. So each battalion is worth 1 point.
Yeah, I marked
We've got 3 battalions.
I marked that over on Ulm as the ID. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
Yep, indeed. So we've got 3 ineffective doctrine line battalions are worth 1 point apiece for 3 points. Then we've got 4 more points coming from the artillery battery. So you've got 7 points going against the French division, plus 2 dice.
Okay.
And the goal is to make increments of 10. So right now, you can't do amazing, but you really just don't want to roll a 2 and you're fine.
Well, okay.
We call that flirting. So you made your 10. And we'll go all the way through this process and then repeat it for the French. The whole thing happens simultaneously again. But
Right.
So the French commander who's present has a leader fate check. So roll 2 dice for him. The French roll 2 dice for their own commander. Don't roll a 2.
I shan't roll a 2. Please don't roll a 2. I do not.
Okay. And what we're checking there is, and it's not only the targeted formation. If there were other formations also within either 6 inches of enemy artillery or 3 inches of enemy infantry or cavalry, they would also have to roll a leader fate check. It happens before the assessment, which we're about to do, because if harmed during this event, that commander may not be available to assist during the assessment. That makes sense?
Yes.
So the French have an assessment. The criteria that triggers the assessment is a leader gets harmed, triggers 1. If the enemy's opposing artillery and skirmishing score are 10 or more, which the Austrian score was 10 or more, that triggers 1. If you're targeted by a grand battery, that also triggers 1. And those do stack, so you can end up rolling several subsequent assessments if multiple of those triggers get pulled.
Yes.
In this case, there's only the 1. So Saint Hilaire is going to take an assessment on his formation, and he is an A. So he is a +3.
Mm-hmm.
He's not grand tactically outflanked, and the Reformation Area is not attacked. Per 10 points of opponent's artillery and skirmishing score, -1. Well, he hit a 10, so that brings you down to a 2. Combat losses doesn't apply during artillery and skirmishing. Fatigue, don't have any. Per enemy battery in short range, none.
Canister is
enfilade.
demoralizing. Who knew?
Yes, and so people will ask about artillery ranges, and the answer is you have to hit your 10, but assuming that you hit your 10, there's an automatic penalty in the assessment. Enfilade fire, does the artillery have an enfilade shot on any battalion? And that's within the 45 degrees. So it looks like the answer is no. It's clearly in the front arc.
Right.
Is the formation brittle, determined, stoic, or enthusiastic if attacking? And gosh, who would have picked Davout's corps to be leading the attack?
It's like they're enthusiastic.
They are enthusiastic.
They are indeed.
And so stoic is a benefit if the formation is on a defend order. Enthusiastic is a benefit if the formation is on an attack order. They're on an active attack order, they receive the benefit. So I believe we were a +3 for the formation commander being an A,
Yes.
-1 for the enemy artillery score, +1 for being enthusiastic while attacking.
Yes.
So I think you are a +3 and 2 dice, unless somebody sees something I missed.
The only question I would ask is, they are indeed in a town. Does that matter? Under formation is occupying.
It depends on what you rate these in your scenario effectively.
Got it.
So if we put these as, they're hamlets, they're villages, they're, less consequential versus they're more consequential. So that is a place that when building a scenario, players should really consider how significant is this built-up area. And there's a bunch of ways you can play with that. One is making it dense, because then light troops and irregulars fight better in it. Another one is if you classify it as a town, it gives a benefit during assessments. Another one is if you demark it as having a strong point. If the center of town has got a big stone church with a walled courtyard or something in it, which there's slews of examples of those sorts of things in European battles.
Oh, of course.
So if it has one of those and it is occupied by you, a strong point provides both a combat benefit and an assessment benefit. So long as you hold that strong point, you have more staying power. When you get kicked out of it, you're weaker in terms of your staying power. For this one, I guess, since we chose to make them sparse, rough terrain, I would say they're both pretty insignificant, and there isn't any benefit for it.
That seems wise.
So the French, I want to say, are at a +3.
Yep. That's how I see it.
Roll 2 dice.
Here we go.
Higher is better.
That's not high. That's a 6.
Oh, that is not high. So 3 + 3 is net 6, and a 5 to 9 result is you're not irregulars or impetuous, so you don't have to do any of that. You're not cavalry, so you don't have to worry about evading. +1 fatigue. So St. Hilaire's division takes its first fatigue.
Oh. Squeaky. We are fatigued.
And the French obviously skirmish back, and it's simultaneous, so that's before that fatigue was allocated.
Yes.
Right.
How many
2
battalions? 2 of them within 3 and 45 degrees?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So they are effective doctrine, and they almost certainly all have the light characteristics, so they are worth 3 points apiece.
And they have this plus S2?
That is shock, which plays into combat.
Ah, very good. So they're 6 points. Very good.
Plus 2 dice.
And that is the sum of their modifiers. Just so I'm clear, just trying to show the folks.
Yes. They have no artillery present. They don't have any rifle companies because they're French and they don't have rifle companies.
We don't believe in such things. That is for filthy English.
Which is why you
Took you a while to buy off. Took you a while to buy off on the whole idea of guns in general.
I'm gonna roll 6 and add it to the total of 2 dice is what I'm gonna do. Pow. 13.
There we go. 13.
Take that assessment, mister.
So the Austrians first check leader fate.
Oh, right.
I think the only commander within range and arc of the enemy is Ulm, so you only have the 1 check to do.
Snake eyes, come on now.
Not today.
Not today.
And notice on the leader fate table, if it's the army or force commander who's checking and they're personally commanding the formation, they don't get hurt on a 2. They get hurt on a 4 or less.
Yes.
Right.
The presumption is the formation commander is somewhere up there doing something. If you go there yourself, then you are in the hot place. You went there for a reason. So you're not somewhere safe. You're somewhere dangerous.
I absolutely love the characteristic wandered off.
Constantine is a good example.
Yeah,
of that.
that would have been one of the people I was thinking of.
And, it's a little bit strange. If you look at OBs, you look at different historical orders of battle. For the Russian Guard, I don't know, 80% of the time, or some high percentage, Constantine is always there. If you read accounts of the battles, from officers who are present. Constantine is commonly not there. If you're the clerk who's filling out the paperwork, do you say whether or not the Tsar's brother is there, right, or whether or not he checked out?
I know the answer to that. I am a clerk in real life, I guess, and I know the answer to that question.
Oh, the really big important meeting? I'm sure the owner was there. Yep. Look, I mean, it says so right on this form I filled out.
Yep.
So we did...
He didn't die. He did not die.
We did artillery and skirmishing. We did leader fate. The Austrians have to take their assessment.
All right.
Your leadership rating is what, sir?
Of the guy who's there, Ulm.
Yeah.
He is a C.
That's a +1. You are not outflanked, but I have given you a skirmish hit, so that takes you back to 0.
Now, do you have a friendly battery of this formation or within an inch and a half that's committed?
I do.
Wonderful. It is +1.
An inch and a half. That seems longer than that.
It's an inch and a half or of this formation.
Oh. Got it. Sorry.
And so it is of this formation.
It assuredly
is. If he had, let's say that this Brady's battery was also committed and was close enough, these guys would also benefit from that.
I see. Very good. So that means from a 0, you now rise to a +1. Am I correct? Yep.
I was a +1, a -1, and now I've got a +1.
Right. Are you any of these things? I don't think you are. So I think you're at a +1.
Nope. Ulm is just Ulm.
Ulm is Ulm.
Roll 2 dice.
+1.
About a total of a 6.
Same thing as me.
Which is the same thing as Jim.
So you get a fatigue.
Take a fatigue.
I will take a fatigue.
You got it there? I got it for you.
Right here.
There you go. 1 for you.
You know, the Austrian, the French have much better skirmishing prowess. The Austrians balanced out by having artillery present. The French have a much better rated commander and balanced out themselves by rolling really poor dice.
Right.
Not the first time. So that was shootification.
That was, yes, artillery and skirmishing. So we go on to combat.
Nope.
And the question is, do the cavalry wish to convert?
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Okay, and then we go on to top of the next turn.
Oh.
Turn 4, I think.
I think so.
Right.
That seems right.
All right.
Order activation. Do we have any orders to activate? I think everybody's in.
Yeah, I think we're all in.
Yeah.
Issue orders. Does anybody have any new order they want to issue to roll for on a subsequent turn?
I don't.
So this guy's converted to defend, right? Because he's in the town.
Good point. So a moment ago at the top of combat, when I asked if the French cav wanted to convert, that during that order conversion step, the Austrians have reached their objective and they can't go any further because they're blocked by the enemy. They would convert to defend as well.
All right.
There we go. We are doing that thing.
We do not wish to
so leader actions. Does anybody want to commit any artillery, limber any artillery up, which is called displacing, or change objective?
I wish to unlimber my gun.
Okay.
Right there.
It's a command roll.
Yep.
Davu is an A. The subordinate is an A, so you're +6.
Yep.
You're within one party or the other is within 3 inches of the enemy, correct?
No, I would say not. Or is it the troops?
So it is the troops because we don't know where. We don't know
Not really
exactly
sure where
the
that leader
formation
is.
Yeah, right.
He's just
right.
with his guys.
Got it. Makes sense. So yes,
You're effectively trying to coordinate with that body of troops.
Yes.
So that's -3. So you are down to a net +3.
Mm-hmm.
And does that formation have any fatigue?
It has 1 fatigue.
So you're down to a +2, and you're committing artillery from the formation reserve, right?
Correct.
So you're +2, so you're a net +4.
Well, actually, I have to roll for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there it is.
Good enough.
And I'm allowed to move out 8 inches, correct?
Correct. And if you go through friendlies, you pay double. If you go through the town, you pay double since it's rough.
No.
And remember, your infantry is going to be required to move to contact with the enemy in a moment here.
Mm-hmm. I double dog dashed you. Question.
Another question that we get asked a lot at convention games is pre-measuring allowed? And the answer is yes, because you are either a professional or standing near professionals.
I like that answer a lot, actually. Did the wrong thing. There we go. And the horses look the wrong way, right?
Nope, they look at the gun.
They look at the gun.
Funny thing about artillery limbers is that horse-drawn artillery limbers face the guns because you ride through the guns to make a U in order to hitch up, because horses don't walk backwards.
See, I like the fact that you've thought about those things. I really do. All right, we done did it.
I mean, there are horses that walk backwards, but try to get three horses
I've
hitched to a
actually
thing
tried
to walk
once.
backwards.
I don't recommend it. Horses and I have an understanding. I don't ride them, and they don't kick me in the head.
That sounds like a good decision.
It's kind of a deal. All right. I have made my leader order. Doug, did you have one?
No, I do not.
I will point out, when you commit artillery, they do not have to unlimber.
Right.
And when someone says, why would I or wouldn't I do that? If there's enemy cavalry around, you would not want to do that unless they were screened, because you would hate for the cavalry to convert at the top of movement and go hit them while they are limbered before they have the opportunity to unlimber during regular movement. But if they are screened or there's no enemy cavalry around and you commit them, they get a free move, and then during movement they move again.
So I'm gonna go ahead and commit Brady's.
Sounds good.
And get him his 8-inch move.
So you got to do your roll-in stuff, right? Correct?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I gotta see if he can actually do it.
He's a 2. Brady's a 2.
Yeah,
You're
he's
a 2.
Right.
So
that's a 4.
What's the distance?
The distance is nasty.
Distance is too far.
So
it's it's
1. It's just a 1.
It's a mile. Yeah. So it's -1, so it's +3.
Yeah. But nobody over here is close enough to me to be a problem.
Yeah, he's far enough back.
Yeah.
Yep.
No fatigue marker involved.
Nope.
So yeah, I believe it's a +3.
I would concur.
Plus 2 for coming out of formation reserve.
Oh, right.
Right.
So
yeah,
you
good point.
You did that a whole lot, is what you did.
Yeah, they're really
Deployed.
Really committing.
They're
serious about it.
Right.
They're really serious about this. Okay, so the way we can do this is start by going this way.
Oop.
4.5.
Show the folks what trouble you're making.
And then I got another 3.5. And we're most assuredly not yet unlimbering.
No, yeah, I was going to say he's going to be 6-inch back from the
he's deployed.
The 57th Joseph Colorado Infantry.
Like so. All right.
Excellent.
So that is, unless anybody's doing it. Oh, and you do leader actions. You may do leader actions until you fail one.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
So if you wanted to rallying a unit from the Reformation area is a leader action, committing an artillery battery is a leader action, displacing artillery is a leader action. If you fail your second one, then there is no third one. You have to wait till the subsequent turn.
Got it. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I think we're on to... Oh,
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was just looking over, but I do not see any other leader actions that I want to do at this point.
So I believe that we are on to movement.
Yes.
Has anybody reached their objective? Does anybody on support want to convert to attack or defend?
No.
Okay.
Now, these fellows are on attack.
Yep.
Here. Obviously, they are deployed. I want to get them into a formation, and then I'm obligated to push them to the attack. Correct?
Well, they have to go
Okay.
to the enemy.
As is.
Correct. They
Okay.
don't get to now. That said, you're effectively just going to end up lining them up.
Right.
And then these two in the back may either fall in a second wave or expand the frontage. You'll probably want to put them in a second wave.
This was my plan.
But, either one would be perfectly valid. And the big thing is the question of, is your artillery going to have arc? And to some degree, this is not within your control because on an attack order, your units have to move as directly as possible against the enemy. So the most direct path for this lead battalion is probably going to be right there.
I have no question of that in my mind.
Going to screen your battery. Now, at that point, your artillery still has a target.
Yeah, that's
right.
It's just a different formation.
This is how I see this playing out. You tell me if I've done something wrong.
I think you're absolutely right.
That's what I see happening.
Yep, perfectly legitimate.
And then home slice.
And the Austrians there are on almost divisions on defend, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So at the same rate of movement that the French are moving, it may jockey around. So if you wanted to expand your frontage or drop somebody back to put them in a supporting role, you could do that. You're already set up pretty good, so I don't know if there's any practical change to make.
I'm good with where they're at.
I'm going to tell you, David, this makes so much more sense than reading it in the rules. Not that you wrote bad rules. I don't think you did, but I get it now.
You know, if you tell me how to drive somewhere, I'll end up in downtown St. Paul at an Irish bar. But if you, but if I drive there, I will be able to find the place again.
Right.
This is making a lot of sense now.
It's important to have your hands on things in order to learn them.
So now with these lads,
All right.
I owe 2. There are these last 2. Well, actually, I suppose the last 1 because the last one's free. But this fella is...
You will get them both this turn, no matter what.
Oh, okay. That's right, because you can't fail it that badly, right? Okay.
You can get less than 2 units per turn.
So these...
Now they move before they deploy. The whole thing moves.
Ah, okay.
And because any part of it is deployed, the whole thing moves at the deployed rate.
And here was the other piece. I get it now. They are within 6 inches, which is why I chose to start deploying them. Since I've stopped...
and you are no longer on move there. You're on defend there. You chose to stop.
That was my question.
I think we probably missed that. But during whatever the next order conversion after you halted was, you converted.
Right.
Got it.
And then you can shuffle around your front wave to make them all nice and pretty, and you can then bring up the rest of your column. And when you bring up your column, there's no reason that you wouldn't walk them up here and then walk them over a little bit so that when they deploy, they're just right in the correct space.
All right.
Somebody asked at a game, I don't know, maybe fall in 2019, about, well, don't I want to march my column perpendicular to the way that I want to face when I'm deployed?
Yeah.
And you most certainly could, because then when each battalion steps out its 1.5 inches and faces whatever direction it wants,
right,
they're in a nice, pretty line. And then the next turn, the second half of your column marches behind that nice, pretty line. And when it deploys, it too is all laid out and nice. Now, do you have to do that? No, you can deploy from the front because you were coming down a road and wanted to hit a village, and that was the practical option. But if you want to, be all dressed and nice, there's a reason the columns would march that way so that everyone could just step out.
Saint Noseworthy blesses you.
That's So we've got these guys that have moved, these guys that are parked, these guys that have done their deal. Doug, what you got?
And I've got these guys over here.
All right.
All right, they're deployed under a move order.
Okay, and their objective is that town.
The village, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they've got to take their most direct route. Doesn't look like there's anything intervening between them and it anymore. And they may halt within 6 inches of the enemy. They must halt at 3.
All right. So.
And they'll pay double if they move through the town.
Go basically right here.
Now here's a question. You want them to halt at 6? Or do you want them to get as many of them as possible to 3 so that they participate in skirmishing?
Well, I'm down with skirmishing.
And unlimbering your artillery battery is free.
Okay. So that guy was there.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 inches from this guy puts me right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just do this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, looks fine. And skirmishing does not concern itself with friendly troops because you're contributing skirmishers. It's not formed fire. So
Right.
Unlike artillery, you cannot screen skirmishers. The question is just, is a given stand within range and arc?
Okay. Okay, so I can move up into the road. There is 6.8,
Mm-hmm.
which is close enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, you've got up to 8. You're not going into the town, so there's no penalty there.
Just
And limbering is free.
firing down Main Street.
That's right.
Olm says, I don't care. I'm from some other town. Go ahead. Shoot cannons off in it.
That's not my town. Not my town. All right, there we go. I believe we're done.
I would agree.
Wonderful.
Now I can fidget these guys around a little bit,
Yes, you may.
and I think I feel like fidgeting.
I don't know why.
My grins.
If you wanted to, you could drop the cav into a second wave. Or you could move the cav, you could have the cav in the first wave and move, you could contract your frontage and have the infantry in the back. There are reasons to do both things.
Yeah, I know, and I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna not keen on exposing my flank though to his cav. He may decide to convert that order.
This is something that trips people up sometimes, which is that is almost half mile between the Grenzers and that artillery. So if you were to move your hussars out of there and create a gap, somebody might say, well, could the 11th chasseurs really just charge in between there? Yep. In that half-mile space? Yeah, they probably could.
Yeah, I think so.
Could and would.
I don't think that giving them that gap is a great idea at this point. So yeah, we're going to take a smacking over there, but that's okay because we're in the town for now. And we're also rapidly approaching. Good. It's at 10:45, Jim. Just so you're aware.
Yep. That's why I'm hoping to get to a good combat right now, so we can show them the whole deal.
Yep. That's what
I think
that
the town is about to kind of blow up. So
that's what we're looking for.
And that will. This is ESR very commonly is not a fight to the death sort of game because it becomes real clear that we jockey, we do preparatory stuff, we fight, and one side looks at it and says, I don't have enough troops to keep going.
Right, I would withdraw at this point.
I've got 2/3 of my command, and I don't have enough troops to keep going. It's not practical.
Right.
So, we'll see how this goes. So we have got artillery and skirmishing, correct? Fatigue recovery would happen right now. In order to recover fatigue, you have to be on defend and outside of artillery range 6 inches of the enemy. So neither one of
yeah,
that ain't happening.
Neither one of these formations qualify for that. So artillery and skirmishing. Who wants to add up their points first?
Well, I want to see Doug do it because I'm kind of curious to see what points he gets here.
You're right. So I know we got the same deal on artillery. It's 6-pounder with 8 guns, so that's 4 points.
That's 4 points.
I got that guy's actually not in range. Now, I meant for him to be in range.
Did he have the movement to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By all means.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just can't mask your gun, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
there you go.
So that gets us what we need.
Yep.
So you've got 3 points from those infantry.
Yes.
Right.
4 for the guns.
And then do I get these 3 too?
You get these 5.
Oh,
because they
that's
are. It's
interesting.
not formed fire. They are contributing skirmishers. So the
Yep,
battalions
that's right.
in the back
Yep.
detach men and send them up.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's wow. And folks, for the folks watching at home, most games don't quite work that way. I think that's fascinating.
I agree with it completely. I mean, it makes it not just because I'm going to get a bunch of guys, but because that's exactly what happened. And you're right. Too often that gets ignored.
Well, you know, in Battle of Friedland in 1807, there's a whole ton of skirmishing in the woods on the French right. Most of the Russian units that are contributing skirmishers are not in those woods.
Right.
So you've got 8 points right now, plus the artillery, so you're at 12 points.
Yep.
And then this battery here up on the hill has also got, it looks like, range and arc to those infantry. So you are at 16 points.
Ow.
Yep.
Hey.
So roll. How many dice do you think you roll?
I think you roll 2d6. That's what I think.
I rolled 2d6
per division.
Ooh. Whoa!
Timeout.
Each formation gets 2. Now, the French are going to have a little bit of a different problem here because they're splitting their points.
Yes.
Their artillery is going to go against one target and their infantry is going to go against a different target. They will have to choose where they put their dice.
Got it.
Because their formation gets 2 dice. You have 2 formations, you get 2 dice for each. So you're going to get 16 points plus 4 dice.
Plus 4d6. Wow.
There's 19 plus 16.
35. That's
so
3 checks. What?
Well, it doesn't cause 3 checks. It causes 1 check with a -3 modifier.
Right.
Very good.
So the French need to take an Lear Fate check for Saint Hilaire.
He's good.
He's fine. Then the French need to take an assessment. So they've got Saint Hilaire's a 3. So the fatigue makes him 2.
Yep.
The enemy score makes him a -1.
Yes.
There are there's 1 enemy battery within. How close is this? Ooh, it's outside of 3.
It's outside of 3.
But it has an enfilade shot on some unit.
It does.
So that's a -1. So you were 3. You were a
-2.
You're -2, and you have a friendly battery committed, correct?
I do.
Correct.
Of that formation.
I got a friendly battery over here too, though.
Well, then that will help you for yours. This is for his.
Oh, that's right. That's for his. Yeah, right.
So he will receive a benefit for having that friendly battery committed. It's giving staying power to the infantry. So you're 3 minus 3 makes you a 0, minus 1 for the enfilade makes you a -1, plus 1 for your artillery, plus 1 for being attacking while enthusiastic, right?
Yep.
So you're a net plus 0 or net plus 1?
Net plus 1.
Wonderful. Roll 2 dice.
Very enthusiastic. A 9.
A 9.
Another
Take a fatigue.
Ugh.
Yeah, not that bad though.
Not
I
that-
mean,
not as
for
bad.
all that you,
Yeah. But still.
yeah, I mean, for all you got hit with.
True. True.
The way that new players tend to feel about fatigue is, yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
Oh,
I
I
don't care.
care.
Oh my gosh!
I'm-
Right.
What just happened?
This over here, given that I have 5 deployed units, yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It's getting a
that's the
little
other
sticky.
thing to consider. Well, the artillery battery does count, so
Okay,
you've got,
so I got
6.
I got 6.
But you're 30% spent.
Right.
Is the realistic way to look at this?
Oh, I agree. No, look, as I say, in the experimental game that I played, I saw how quickly cavalry can vanish, so this is certainly no different. And we're
So
I can
you're
shoot-
coming back on
I
the
shoot you
Austrians?
back. Yeah. So I start here with
Oh, we did screw one thing up.
what's that?
We did not subtract the fatigue on the Austrians
Ah,
from their score, which would have made them 3 less.
it still would have been
So
it would have been
32.
It changes nothing.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
But I'm now going to do that to the French, so we parity and all.
Yeah, yeah.
So how many battalions you got within 3 and 45? All 5, right?
I have 5, yep.
So that's 15 points because you are effective doctrine lights.
Mm-hmm.
Your artillery is going elsewhere, so it does
Right.
not contribute to that score. So and you're minus 1 fatigue at this point, so
Yep.
you're down to 12 points.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the question.
That'd be 14, wouldn't it? So I'm 15 minus 1, 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. No. It's minus 3 per infantry fatigue marker on the artillery and skirmishing table.
Ooh.
Ah.
So our fatigue gets
Yeah, that's what
allotted
happened to me too.
class.
That's
you
nasty.
either you get 1 fatigue, it gets placed on either infantry or artillery or cavalry if they're
Got
all
it.
present, and then 1 infantry fatigue is the same as losing 1 effective doctrine lights battalion
Wow. So yes,
in terms of prowess.
as if I should say this quite correct, I am down to 12.
Yep.
Now you have a decision to make. Your artillery is going to throw 4 points over here against the avant-garde, right?
Yep.
Because his artillery is out and his infantry is screened.
Yep.
So you only have 2 dice. Do you want to throw them over here and hope for an 8 or better to make 20? Or do you want to take your automatic 10, because you've already got 12 points, and throw your dice here in order to make these guys check?
I want to shoot him over here.
Okay, go for it.
All right, so I'll go over here first, yeah? Or are you so 12?
Well, there's
Yeah, you don't have to roll.
Yeah,
Nothing to roll.
you're only going to roll your 2 dice against one of the targets.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So you've
Right.
already got 12 points over there. So you know that Ulm has to check. You could try it. You could roll your dice
Make
there
him
and try to
check
make
twice.
Ulm's check worse.
I...
make it
Yeah, you
Oh,
stack
make
the
it a
modifier.
-2. Right.
interesting.
Or you could say that was, I'm going to put the emphasis on my artillery battery firing on the avant-garde, and the dice go there. And in the hopes that you roll enough, you roll a 6 or better and cause a check on the avant-garde.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That is what I'm going to do. 6 or
Go
better.
for it.
6 or better in the avant-garde. Come on now.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so the
One
Austrians have to do leader fate checks first, and they do
Right.
one here and here and here. Because The avant-garde is within 6 and arc of the French artillery, and the other two formations are within 3 or less of enemy infantry.
All right.
So
so suddenly I became Vukasovic, huh?
Yeah.
it's not that you're you; it's that each of your subordinates have to check.
But before, my dude over here was nameless Austrian general.
Yeah, no, he is actually...
yes.
I had to look into the... I had my son fetch up the book. That is Vukasovic.
Okay.
You're proficient.
Right.
You're doing a lot of bookkeeping in the background. I noticed the village guide's name changed and fixed way back when.
It did.
Yeah, I kind of tend to do that. So, usually it's more creatively named than that. But, all right. Oh yeah, that was Vukasovic is good. Yep. Here's Ulm. Feeling fine. And here's Brady. Doing just great.
Wonderful. Then you take your assessment. The avant-garde does not have one because 10 points wasn't it, and the commander wasn't harmed. Brady does not have one because he didn't have 10 points against him. Only Ulm does.
Right. Okay. So he is I believe he's a C, right?
Correct.
He is.
Yep, he's a C. So that's +1. Mm-hmm. We're not technically outflanked.
You are not.
I got a -1. Mm-hmm. So now we're at 0.
Fatigue.
Yep. Yeah, for the fatigue. Well, I got a -1 per 10 points.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
so that puts you at 0. The fatigue puts you at 0. -1.
The fatigue puts me at -1. Don't have any enemy batteries in short range. No enfilade, but I do have a friendly battery.
Yes.
Committed and unlimbered, so that's a +1.
Yep.
Sounds like
and if Brady's battery was closer, it would give you another +1.
Right. But we just got the +1.
So that sounds like a 0.
No, it's a +1. I was at 0.
Ah, very good.
Yeah, I was at 0, so it's a +1.
A plussing of 1. Another
take a
9. Yep.
We're wearing away.
Here we go.
And we go to combat.
Oh boy.
So, assuming that the French cav aren't charging in, we don't have any order conversions.
Yeah,
it goes from resolution goes from attackers right to attackers left. Okay. So the French are the attacker. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with this battalion of the 3rd line versus this battalion of the 18th.
Okay.
And it is the red table on the back side, top right.
Yeah, here we go. Another table. Cool.
Commander's tactical rating. So what is the tactical rating of Saint Hilaire?
Varies.
That's the number.
Should we write on his fig? He is a +2.
+2. Mm-hmm. What is the combat rating of the 3rd line? Looks like it is a 5. So you are a net 7.
Yep.
They have shock of 1. So in the first resolution of each turn, they are up 1.
Okay.
So they are an 8.
8.
The 18th, what's Ulm's rating? He is a +1 for tactical.
+1.
The 18th is a 5, so they are a 6. Now, you both have fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
The impact of fatigue depends on who you're fighting. If you're fighting cavalry, it's 1 modifier. If you're fighting infantry, it's another. So it is per every 3 fatigue for infantry, it is -1. Neither one of you has 3 fatigue. So it has no impact on this combat.
Okay.
You are both just below the threshold. So the French have an 8, and the Austrians have a 6, you each roll 2 dice, and it's additive math. So it doesn't matter if you each add your rating, or if the high guy adds
2.
The difference.
Yeah.
I normally do it that way because it's easier math in my head.
Right.
So the French are +2 on their
basically,
dice.
Jim, you're +2.
Yep. My son always insists on this. 12.
Whopping 5, and you're +2.
So we win by 7.
So, yep,
Yeah, it's
difference of
of
7. The results table is won by and lost by. So won by 4 or more, this infantry battalion gets a breakthrough.
Okay.
And lost by 7 to 9, take a fatigue.
Ooh.
Yep.
And that battalion routes.
So it goes booking back to the recombobulation area.
Yep.
All right. And what does a breakthrough do?
It is involuntary because you're not there.
Right.
You're back on this hill. Whoopsie, as I go move you. You're back on this hill
Mile away.
approximately a mile from where it happened. So the third line goes 1.5 inches towards the closest enemy unit, and it may turn up to 45 degrees to do so.
Let's see who's the nearest.
So you probably go hit these guys.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Even
Yeah, because they're right there.
Sure.
And you can turn up to 45.
So I go like this, kind of?
Yep.
Or, so like that.
Yep, there you go.
All right.
And we fight that one right now.
This fight of this guy versus this guy.
Correct.
All right. So I'm
Now,
go ahead.
Two things to note. The stats, and we have this is about as complex as combat calculation gets. Your shock goes away.
Okay.
Because it's only good in the first resolution of each turn.
Sure.
So you no longer have your shock. What was your shock worth? Your shock was worth 1.
Plus 1. Right?
So you were an 8. You are now a 7.
Right.
The Austrians are versus 2 battalions. So they are down 1.
So it's still a
So
So
they
it's
just went
+2
from
again.
they just went from a 5 or from a 6 to a 5. The
Right.
Austrians have also hit 3 fatigue.
Yep. So they're down 1.
Oh.
So they're down 1, so the French are +3 on their dice.
Yep. You're +3 on your die roll.
That's about as complex of a combat calculation as you will get in terms of variation turn over turn. Or round or round.
I have a oh, look at you, Mr. Fancy.
Did it tie?
It did.
Yep.
Wonderful. Both of you take a fatigue, you recalculate, you fight again.
All right. I'll fight you again.
Now, that was good for the Austrians.
Because that cuts me to a +2.
It hurts you, and they haven't hit a new increment yet. Because until they get to 6, it's not getting worse.
So I'm now merely a +2.
So so roll again.
Take that.
Oh, look at that.
Ooh.
+6.
So net 14 to 8, right? +6?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
+6.
the French win by 4, and the Austrians lose by 4 to 6. Retire if supported. So is this battalion supported?
It
It is.
It is. Then it just retires, which is to fall back 1.5 inches or behind the friendlies that support them. So it's going to move to, somewhere here.
But he does pick up a fatigue, correct?
No.
Oh, I see. So that I get it. I read it now. Got it. And in my case,
If he were not supported, he would rout and he'd take a fatigue. If he was cavalry, he would fatigue. He is neither. He doesn't take a fatigue. You break through. The closest one is probably now the Landwehr, who are trying to figure out how they ended up in the front.
So I keep doing this. Wow.
You keep breaking through there. people ask very common question we get is there a limit to breakthroughs? And the answer is at some point you won't get one, or you'll run out of enemy you can
run out of enemies.
All right.
But you'll break through until you don't.
All right. So this is a 5 to a 3.
And Saint Hilaire gives you +2, so you're a 7 to a 3, but you are down for fatigue, so you're a 6 to a 3, and all makes him a 4, so you're a 6 to a 4.
But then I got
minus
down
fatigue.
1, so I'm a 3.
So it's +3 to the French.
So it's plus 3 to the French.
They're +3 to the French. Holy cow! Oh, there you go. Ooh, by 4.
Yeah, it's still not good.
That's
so the Lanver retire. And they'll fall, but because they are now supported, because the infantry that fell back behind them, and then
another breakthrough.
They will break through and they will go hit the closest, which, because we have handy dandy, and it's closest within, they can turn up to 45. So they probably hit these here, because this is longer, and I think this is outside 45.
Yeah. All right. Here I come. Hi.
So they go and hit those. And I'm guessing it's going to be +2, right? Because it should be 1 better than for the Austrians than the last one. The fatigue hasn't changed.
Yep.
Right.
+2. $11.
5.
Ooh. The dice are telling.
Yeah.
So 11 to 5, difference of 6.
Yep.
Is this guy supported?
I would say not.
No.
No, that's bad. So he routes. Taking fatigue.
And now he has more fatigue than his men deployed.
Don't have to check yet.
Okay. But
status check is performed after the combat assessment.
I go there.
Sure. And let's say that that these guys and these guys were both equidistant from you, then you get to pick.
Got it. I would have picked this.
Yeah. But they have to go to whoever's closest unless they're equidistant.
Sure.
So now we should probably check our math because it's changed substantially. So these guys are a 5, all makes them a 6. Their fatigue makes them a 5. They're versus 2 enemies, that makes them a 4, right?
Mm-hmm. I follow that.
The French are a 5. Saint Hilaire makes them a 7. Their fatigue makes them a 6.
So it's +1.
Yes.
Interesting. All right, +1 it is.
Eat that.
I think I'm gonna. That's
no, you're not.
That's 2. I lost by 2.
You lost by 2.
The French fall back. They get a retire result, so they drop away from and it's not how far you move. It's the distance you're opening up from the enemy. So you have to be 1.5 inches from all enemy when you finish your movement. Okay. So you're not going to fall straight back.
Right.
You're going to fall back over here.
Got it.
And this distance is, greater than 1.5 inches. There you go. And then here's our last resolution between these two.
Mm-hmm.
Should be the same.
It'll be different because.
Oh yeah. Actually, it'll be even up.
No, I got.
No.
Nope.
Oh, you got shock.
Yeah. So he's French Laser are a 5 plus shock of 2 because they haven't fought before, so they haven't used it up. So they're at a 7.
Yeah.
Saint Hilaire makes them an 8, 9 minus their fatigue. They are an 8.
And I'm a 5 plus 1, 6 minus 1 for fatigue, so a 5.
Yep.
Plus.
So the French are +3.
By 1.
So,
Lost by 1.
so the Austrians are going to retire, which is just drop back an inch and a half.
Hmm?
Oh no, plus
Yeah,
3.
Yeah, so he was 8, so I lost by 1.
Correct.
Yeah. So the Austrians are going to retire. They're going to fall back an inch and a half, basically a base. And the French are going to stay put in hold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both sides take their assessment.
Got it. How did those go?
Well, Brady's guys just sit here and watch.
Right.
Yeah. Right. All right, so I'll do mine first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a leader of +2, I believe. Nope,
He's
+1.
a C.
He's a C.
+1.
Yep. +1. And
How many combat resolutions did you lose? Did you
more than 3.
Did you lose 6 or more?
I should say 9.
I don't
You lost
believe
3.
it was...
I think you lost 5. I don't think you lost 6.
No, I don't believe you lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we lost 6.
So you're down 2 for that. So you're net -1. How much fatigue you
Well,
got?
let's stop a minute, though. You may be right. It may be more than 6. He lost 1.
Yep. Oh, 2, 3,
3.
4, 5.
Yeah, but this guy lost 2, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh yeah.
So you're down 4. So you're a C. You're a 1. You're down 4. You're a -3.
Right.
How much fatigue you got?
5.
So you're a -8. Do you have any friendly artillery committed?
I do.
Yes. So you're a -7.
Here we
That's
go.
a bad number. Roll 2 dice.
That's a bad number for the Austrians. They roll a 10.
Pretty good roll.
So they get a 3.
0 to 4. You're not irregulars or impetuous. You're not cavalry. Artillery retires half 1d6 batteries. So this battery, since you only have 1, you can't get less than 1. That battery goes to the Reformation Area. That's a retire result for artillery. It picks up and pulls out to the rear area. A route for artillery is a pickup. And then you take 2 fatigue on the formation. So you're now up to 7. And we'll do our status check in a moment, but first let's do our French assessment.
So I'm an A.
So you're 3.
Go over the modifiers. So I'm a +3.
Did you lose 3 combats?
I did not.
How much fatigue you got?
How many I got? I got
3.
3. Yep.
So you were at 0.
0.
And do you have a friendly artillery battery committed? Yes.
I do, yeah.
And you have an enemy artillery battery enfilading you.
I do.
Only 1, because the other one, these are simultaneous. So the other one is still on this hill.
Yes.
So you're still enfiladed by 2 batteries.
That sucks.
So you're +3 -3 to 0. +1 for your battery.
Yep.
-2 for his 2 enfilading batteries. So you're net -1.
Uh-huh.
And you are enthusiastic and attacking for the moment.
So I'm 0.
So you're 0. Roll 2 dice. High is
Did we
good.
get his fatigue in there?
Yep.
Yes.
That's my minus.
Okay.
That's my -3.
Saint Hilaire and the fatigue
Oh, look at
even
this
out.
noise.
Oh, wow.
Man. Wow.
So same result that the Austrians had.
Oh, that's funny.
Same bracket.
Yeah.
So your artillery pulls out to the Reformation Area, and you take 2 fatigue.
That is so funny. Okay.
So now both sides do their status check. You compare the number of fatigue to the number of deployed units.
5 and 5.
So the French are on a retreat. The Austrians compare the number of fatigue,
They're
to the
running
number
away.
of deployed units, and you're over double. So the Austrians break, and the French retreat. The French have to open the distance up to 6 inches. So the closest French are there, and they may face the enemy. The Austrians have to open the distance up to a mile. So the closest Austrians are about where the Ulm's Reformation Area is right now, and they must face away. And the Reformation Area and route units just fall back.
Wow. Well, I think I certainly know what happened in Beauchamp today.
Oh, isn't that lovely? I mean, that is a very Napoleonic kind of result.
I agree. I certainly agree.
So, you know, at this point, the Austrians have got to look at this and say, well, do we think that our avant-garde is going to hold back another one of those plus Cav? Probably not.
No.
Right.
And the French have to decide just how vigorously do we want to push.
Right,
because we've already lost one formation.
Wow. Wow.
So, now, these guys aren't gone.
Right.
They could get back in the game, but it's going to take a while, and they're going to come back at a reduced strength. Right. Because you can run over there yourself, take personal command, inspire the formation. You can remove a unit, by which I mean remove, and then you can remove 2 fatigue when you drop that unit.
Right, and that's what kept me from rallying the cavalry, because I didn't have that many units. Gosh.
Right, so now Ulm's division, the problem is, and he can remove the routed guys first, but that only gets him down 4 fatigue, so he'll be out of retreat status if he does that.
Right.
Not enough to come off. If he runs over there himself, takes personal command, removes the 2 routed units, drops his fatigue down to 3. If, we'd have to do the math to see if it's possible, if he's able to rally the artillery battery, that would get him up to 4 deployed units. They'd come off of retreat and go into defense status, but they're going to be fragile. And they're still not actually going to be useful for another 2 to 3 turns while that fatigue bleeds off during the movement phase. So that's kind of a long haul bet to get Ulm back in the game.
Man.
You could get the French back in the game faster, obviously, because dropping 1 battalion drops you 2 fatigue. You're down to 3. You've got 4. But you're going to remove 2 of those. You're going to be down to 2, or you're going to be down to 1 fatigue, but you're going to have effectively 1 brigade left. 3 battalions of infantry,
right?
My goodness.
And artillery battery.
Well, this is something. This is going to be a lot to think about. That is really cool. That is
so it's extremely cool. This is really good because dead on at this point, a competent Austrian commander looks at this and goes, well, we skirmished for that village today, time to get the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's obvious to see why,
but it's not a rout.
Right.
And this was not to be a dead horse picking on your troop con selections, because it's a nice illustration that this is about the best that the French have to offer.
Yes.
And in 1809, Davout fights a bunch, and he holds up very, very well. Does he rout corps away from him? No. He's not driving Austrians from the field in droves, but he has a heck of a lot more staying power.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
And if you look at, as I was looking at the modifiers and I was looking at the charts and sort of running math in my head, if these are 1806 Prussians or 1807 Russians, it's a different story.
It's a lot more problematic.
Yeah.
The Prussians have got pretty good troops in 1806, and they've got really lousy commanders for who end up fighting. A lot of them get killed right at the onset at Auerstadt.
Sure.
The Russians have got pretty good troops, and the commanders, it varies pretty drastically. At Eylau, the Russians are incredibly effective and incredibly stubborn.
Yes.
But they're not a fast, flexible army.
Right.
You can see it once you get. Let's say this Ulm had a larger formation, and he hasn't broken. He is not even retreating yet. He's got 9 or 12 battalions. Are you going to get him to do anything else while he's got 7 fatigue on him? No, he's locked in.
No.
Because whatever modifiers you've got going for you, you need a net 7 on 2 dice in order to activate some different order.
Oh, and that's the other thing.
And,
yeah. Trying to get him off the dime is going to be...
Yeah, I mean, he's almost done.
So you can see how the friction of warfare, it's difficult once you've made your plan to do anything fancy. And the French have a little bit more flexibility in that, but it's not overwhelming.
Right.
What if the Austrian report is we skirmished around this village and retired? What's the French report? Yeah, we engaged one of our divisions. My corps committed one division against this village. We pushed the Austrians back, and we're continuing our march.
And by the time Friant gets there, he wonders what all the fuss was about. Right,
because he marched over here and he deployed, and we played 5 turns, 4 turns.
Right.
So this represents an hour and a half, and obviously I gabbed a lot, and we went through everything very particularly.
Sure.
But this is less than 2 hours of action.
Yeah, Friant's a mile from that village. He can't even see that village.
Right. As a practical matter.
Right. He's hearing that.
Friant's report is going to be there's Grenzers in the woods.
Yeah, there's guys over there. Right.
Yeah. And again, very 19th century, my avant-garde and your hussars sat there and glared across this valley at each other.
Oh no, and I love that because
doing nothing, right?
Because why? Because we could risk losing everything.
Right.
Well, and if you were going to press this, why does the Austrian player retire? The Austrian player retires because if Friant, the French cav don't go against the avant-garde, Friant does.
No.
And
Friant does.
He's going to push that avant-garde away. Mm-hmm. And now there's a vector for the cav to pursue. And the Austrian player says, no, this is a minor defeat. If I try to hold this, I'm going to end up routed because the French are going to be chasing me down with cav when my left flank cave or my right flank caves in.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, once again, 50% of my infantry were not committed. They were, hardly committed to action. They came up, they fired a handful of skirmisher rounds. The artillery fired. They were never in combat.
Right.
Well, all I can say for certain... Go ahead.
Well, that conforms with the accounts of minor actions extremely well.
And obviously these were small formations, half dozen battalions apiece instead of double that. And so, you can understand how it's directly correlated to their staying power and how long they're going to stay in the fight.
And what excites me is, because I've been browsing through your books that you have, it's the idea of 25 guys playing Borodino.
Yeah.
Where everybody has, basically a division or a corps, and suddenly these orders become incredibly important once the space becomes dramatically bigger, and but this is a wonderful example. So from the Armchair Dragoons perspective, there will certainly be more to come. I want to so I get to ask you this question before we wrap up. Are you are you familiar with Patty Griffith's Napoleonic Wargaming for Fun?
I have a copy. I have not read it.
Okay. Because
I know that's sacrosanct, but I have a copy. But I have not read it.
I was
just in my library.
Because as I map this out in my head and I see this, I want you to read, just when you have a chance amongst all the other things you're doing, the Army game. Because I always wanted to try to map.
That's one of the chapters, I take it?
It's one of his. That book is built around a sequence of scales, all the way from skirmish all the way up to army. And then he also does some Kriegspiel and Siege and some others. This feels so much like a really nice evolution of his army game. It's
that's very nice, because he's rather known.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a compliment, because
that's pretty kind.
Patty is Dr. Griffiths, I should say, like I knew him in life. I did have the privilege of sharing a couple letters with him over the years, but it's very interesting. That's very cool. No, I think this is wonderful. So folks, definitely please go out. We'll show you the logo again. The Wargaming Company. This is where you want to go to get all your ESR goodness. Know that the Armchair Dragoons are definitely going to be playing some more of this. I know I will twist Doug's arm and he will play some more.
Yeah, you're not going to have to twist real hard on this one.
Now, here's the question, Doug. You feel that you lost. In losing, did you have fun?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean,
because my disposition is always, if I can play a war game and lose and have a good time, then it's
absolutely. I mean, the system is a blast, right? There's just no question about that. I am always interested much more in how well the game replicated what historically would have happened, not in terms of, if I'm playing a historical scenario, it's got to have the historical outcome, but does it feel like
modeling of the problems?
Right, exactly.
I really want to thank you, David, for coming along and showing us how to play.
It was delightful. I had a wonderful time. I missed our spring convention season because of pandemic. So this was nice.
I'm going to first tell everyone, as always, the Wargaming Company, Penguin Empires, there you go. You can go check them out on the web. You can check us out on the web at armchairdragoons.com. We hope you've liked this particular presentation. We're going to talk a little more after we hang up the phone, but you people who are watching the video, please take care. And hey, Doug, thanks for coming by.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. This was a blast.